pussy. One sip, two sips, and I'm feeling so alive. Coffee in the morning, it's the best way to survive. Woke up in the morning, sleepy eyes yawning. Jumped out of bed, started the day, opened the curtains. Felt the cool breeze, the sun shining on my face. But something was missing, I needed my job to chase. Give me coffee in the morning, give me coffee in the morning. Gotta have the coffee, wake me up, shake me up, dip me like a lassie. One sip, two sips, and I'm feeling so alive. Coffee in the morning, it's the best way to survive.
Good morning, good morning.
Good morning, Salty. How are you?
Doing pretty good. Slept pretty decent last night. Got my big old cup of coffee, so I think I'm okay.
Me too. Got me my coffee. I just noticed in your new intro that you got going on for this morning show, we got a salt shaker in the upper right corner that says Salty AF.
Yeah, I did. I couldn't help myself.
Accurate, 100% accurate.
If I get bored with it, because I tend to get bored easy. If I get bored, shit gets sideways. But I might change it up. You never know about me. I'll be like, you know what? I'm bored with that one. Let's just go and do something different. But yeah, I thought that was kind of appropriate for the most part.
100%. Yes, 100%.
Welcome in, Nina. It's good to see you here. Thanks for coming in. There's a lot of people covering this morning's hearing. So I don't know how many we will get in here, but we're going to do our thing our way. One of the first things I did want to do, though, was go over yesterday's little surprise hearing that they held. Like, I was getting ready to make dinner. I checked the YouTube before I went to the kitchen, and I was like, oh shit, we have a hearing? Where'd this come from? And so I'm trying to listen to the hearing while cooking dinner. And of course, there's the family noise in the background. I'm like, So I was going to go live after that. I thought, you know what, I'll just do it in the morning before the other hearing that way. Yeah, because I was kind of tired. And I'll be honest with you guys, this blizzard condition stuff I've been dealing with for the last couple of days has done me in. I'm done with it. Like, when y'all come in from your blizzard-like conditions, I pray y'all all have the, pretty cool mud rooms, because I got one, but damn, that's a lot of shaking off the snow. The shoes are icy. There's snow. There's melting. It was a whole mess. I'm like, I kept cleaning and cleaning and cleaning because, of course, the son and grandson kept going in and out playing in snow.
Yeah. Think about that lasting like 3 months long for...
No. Mm-mm.
Yeah.
I'd move. I would be that one to say, you know what, I'm out of here. This is not for me. Maybe that's because I'm born and raised over here in Florida, and I'm just like, but I guess if you're born and raised in that kind of conditions, you're just used to it. You know how to deal with it, like we do with hurricanes here. But anyway, whatever.
Yeah, when you're a kid, it's okay, but the older you get, the less appealing it is, and you definitely start looking at other options.
It was fun, I mean, it was great. I built a really cool snowman. I didn't know what I was doing, didn't know how to do this. I'm like, I've seen it done, I know what they look like. So I made a snowman, and this morning it was so funny because my dog likes to pick up sticks and run around the yard with them and do whatever her thing. So she goes out this morning, and some of the snow around the back doorsteps had turned to like ice, and so she's like barely traipsing through the ice, and she goes over to my snowman and she starts smelling him, and she just takes his stick arm right out of his body and throws it on the ground. I was like,
No.
Why do you have to make him handicapped for? He ain't done that to you.
That's assault and battery.
She's like, those are my sticks, you stupid snowman. Those are only for me to play with. When we get to the part of the live hearing, I'm not going to stop and interrupt any of the hearing guys. I'll be in the chat with you guys and taking notes during the same time. Now, we'll go over that hearing in a minute that they did yesterday, because the judge did say that there may be times during today's hearing that they stop the camera and audio. But then he also made a statement that if he feels like there's things that weren't so secretive after all, that he will release transcripts of that. So we'll see. I'll play you the hearing so y'all can see for yourselves. Let me just say our good mornings here. Thank you, 857 Tucson. You guys hit that like button gently. Don't leave your touch DNA. Put a glove on or something. Or you might want to leave it in case y'all go missing. We can help maybe try to find y'all. Forrest, good morning and welcome in. We appreciate you being here, and I hope things are still getting better and improving on your end over there. I haven't had a chance to speak to you in a day or two, so thank you for being here. All right, so originally, that little surprise hearing yesterday, let me get this screen up here, just give you guys a little backstory about that for a moment. And then we're going to go look at that hearing, because like I said, it's only like a half hour long. Okay, tell me if you guys can see that well enough. Okay. So this was an order denying petitioner's motion to be heard prior to January 21, which was the closed hearing. And what it was is basically, it was called an interested parties wanted to be a part of it, or to be heard, and it turned out that was the media. And so the following items: motion to be heard as interested parties, memorandum in support of motion to be heard as interested parties, and 3, a proposed order granting motion to be heard as interested parties was received by the court immediately prior to the scheduled hearing with the parties at 10 a.m. on Tuesday the 21st. These documents shall be docketed as exhibits to this order. Given the untimely filing, the court was unable to accommodate the request for the hearing by the petitioning media interest. Today's hearing with the parties was designed to establish a schedule for the hearings on the 23rd and 24th, and it was closed to the public. The very purpose of the hearing was to discuss what specific information currently sealed must be protected during the upcoming hearing for the 23rd and 24th, and how best to do so, to formulate a plan to allow as much public access as possible at the upcoming hearings. The court needed to have today's hearing closed and to have a candid discussion. So basically, that's what that was. They denied their order but then they went ahead and let them be heard, which was yesterday. So let me pull up my YouTube. Did you guys get a chance to catch that hearing by any chance? Oops, that's not the right thing.
I haven't seen it.
What's going on here?
Like saying anything could go up or to the right. Just like
Google just tripped me out. Or my YouTube, I should say. Okay, let me pull up my morning show thing here. Okay, East Idaho News. Now, the Judge Hippler also live streams from his courtroom, but once the court hearings are over, the stream is taken down and you can't rewatch from there. But we have a lot of outlets that do cover it, and then you can go back and look. And I love East Idaho News for that purpose. There's several out there, but this is the one that I use the most. Let me get to the hearings. It's like court will be soon. Let me get to the very beginning. Now, Kohberger was not present during the hearing, and I don't even think Ann Taylor spoke. It was Massoff who did the talking. And I'll tell you, Olson is a representative for the media, and she's had some good arguments in the past, and she made a darn good argument, in my opinion. I muted myself. She had a really good argument. You will see what you guys think about this. Okay. So this was yesterday's hearing. And let me know if you guys can hear it and all that good stuff. I'll start in just a sec. Oh, thank you, Forrest. I'm good. It's just not used to this snow, but it was fun to play in, but we're good.
Is there supposed to be audio right now? Because I'm not hearing any audio.
Yeah, they don't even know what they're doing. Let me get it. Okay.
There we go. Yeah, I
they
hear
were
it now.
just taking their time.
With us also are represented by by Ms. Taylor and Ms. Massoff. The defendant has been excused from appearing. The defendant himself has been excused from appearing today. With us also are petitioners, counsel representing petitioners, Ms. Olson and Mr. Pedersen. Today's hearing was set to address the interested parties' petition to be heard as interested parties related to the court's closure of a portion of the hearing set for Thursday and Friday. So with that, I will let, whether it's, I'm not sure if Ms. Olson or Mr. Peterson is addressing the court today, but whomever is may address the court.
Thank you, Your Honor. It will be Ms. Olson on behalf of the interested parties who are various media organizations and professional journalist organizations with a history of covering the proceedings in this case. And the interested parties thank the court for this opportunity to address this issue regarding press and public access to the hearings that are scheduled to start tomorrow at 9 a.m. Your Honor, as the court knows, the United States Supreme Court has long acknowledged that the First Amendment protects the rights of the public and the press to attend criminal proceedings. And while few cases in Idaho have dealt directly with public access to pretrial proceedings, and in particular suppression hearings, at the federal level, both the United States Supreme Court in Waller versus Georgia and the Ninth Circuit in Associated Press versus U.S. District Court for the Central District of California and in United States versus Brooklier have addressed the issue. Waller did so in the Sixth Amendment context. Brooklier found that the First Amendment right of access extends to suppression hearings, and in Associated Press, the Ninth Circuit extended the logic in Brooklier to pretrial filings, writing in the very first part of its opinion, there is no reason to distinguish between pretrial proceedings and the documents filed in regard to them. Notably, both Associated Press and Brooklier involved high publicity, highly public defendants and charges. Associated Press involved federal narcotics charges against, among others, John DeLorean, and the Brooklier case involved a RICO prosecution against members of the criminal enterprise La Cosa Nostra. Waller, in particular, in its decision, sets out the benefits that the U.S. Supreme Court has seen in its various decisions that arise from public proceedings in criminal cases. It notes that in Gannett, a case in which the United States Supreme Court looked at but did not decide the issue of press access to suppression hearings, that the requirement of a public trial is for the benefit of the accused, that the public may see he is fairly dealt with and not unjustly condemned, and that the presence of interested spectators may keep his triers keenly alive to a sense of their responsibility and the importance of their functions. And in turn quoted other cases. In addition to ensuring that the judge and the prosecutor carry out their duties responsibly, a public trial and public proceedings encourage witnesses to come forward and discourages perjury. Your Honor, prior to closing a criminal proceeding, the court must afford those excluded from the proceeding a reasonable opportunity to state their objections. We appreciate the court providing us that opportunity here. And the court must also comply with the requirements set out in Press Enterprise 2 before it can close those proceedings. A criminal proceeding can only be closed if the court makes specific findings on the record as required by that case. And those specific findings need to be sufficient in writing, insufficient so that a party excluded can challenge them. The Ninth Circuit has explained that a court cannot be closed in criminal proceedings unless such closure serves a public interest. There's a substantial probability that in the absence of closure, this compelling interest would be harmed, and that there are no alternatives to closure that would adequately protect the compelling interest. And that's in Oregonian at 920 F. 2nd at 1466, quoting from the Press Enterprise 2 test. Here, Your Honor, the interest parties are not arguing for a blanket order opening the court. We are arguing for the court to adhere to this long-established process of determining how and under what circumstances a court could be closed for a hearing. For many of the media outlets we represent, even in national security, child sex assault, and organized crime cases that they cover, the process that we are seeking has been carefully followed. The public and the media have a right to appeal unwarranted closures of a courtroom, but they're unable to determine whether the court is being closed appropriately because the court so far has not made public the most basic information regarding the reasons for its closure. The defendant in this case, in both its January 13th and January 21st filings, seeks an open hearing and asserts that an open hearing is of utmost importance to him. Therefore, any concerns about the closure being required to ensure the defendant's right to a fair trial are moot. And as Mr. Kohberger pointed out in his motion to hold an open hearing, the Supreme Court in Waller held that when the defendant objects to the closure of a suppression hearing, the hearing must be open unless the party seeking to close the hearing advances an overriding interest that is likely to be prejudiced. The burden is on the party seeking closure. That's from Oregonian 920 F. 2nd at 1467 and Brooklier 685 F. 2nd at 1167. As we understand it, Your Honor, the interest being advanced by the state is concern for information being provided to the potential jury pool and possible inadmissible evidence being discussed in open court. But that is inherent, Your Honor, in any motion to suppress hearing. The whole basis of the hearing is to see whether the evidence should be excluded or admitted at trial. Concern about the public maybe learning about this evidence, and even if it ends up being inadmissible, is therefore not an overriding interest. And absent that some evidence that this discussion that would occur in the hearing would taint a jury pool or provide information that would be difficult to seat a jury, I think that is also not sufficient evidence for this court to find that it's a compelling interest and warrant closure of the hearing over both Mr. Kohberger's objection and then the right of public access. It also appears from Mr. Kohberger's filing yesterday that the state asserted that Mr. Kohberger's acquiescence to the non-dissemination order is somehow a basis for them to argue that Mr. Kohberger cannot now object to this closure. Not certain if that was the argument that the state advanced, because we haven't seen their pleading. It's not on the cases of interest website. But as I understand the non-dissemination order, Your Honor, and its purpose, it's directed at comments or statements that are made outside of court proceedings and pleadings, and not at what can be said by the parties or their counsel in the courtroom. And the very purpose of the non-dissemination order, as I understand it, Your Honor, was to prohibit those sorts of extrajudicial comments by people who would be in the know, but that in-court proceedings are precisely the kind of information that should be available to the public as this case moves forward. Your Honor, I would submit also that there is tremendous public interest, and it serves a tremendous public good for the public to know at the time that it's being considered the evidence, whether the evidence that the state seeks to introduce at trial was gathered in a method that is constitutional or meets evidentiary thresholds for admission. A motion to suppress may be the critical stage of a criminal case. If essential evidence is suppressed, then the government will not be able to meet its burden of proof at trial. Indeed, Mr. Kohberger made that exact argument in his filing yesterday. The purpose of the IGG was to investigate a criminal case. What is more, without IGG, this case would never have been brought against Mr. Kohberger. The public should know precisely what law enforcement and prosecutors did in gathering such evidence and why and how the defendant thinks that was illegal. The court in Waller, when it was talking about the aims and interests of a public trial, noted that those aims and interests are no less pressing in a hearing to suppress evidence. And then they pointed again to several of the individual opinions in Gannett, the case where many Supreme Court justices opined that if they were addressing the question, they would say there's a First Amendment right of access to suppression hearings, but they didn't reach that question. In Gannett, the comments that many of those justices made was that in many cases, the suppression hearing was the only trial because the defendants thereafter pleaded guilty or the evidence was suppressed and no case went forward. And similar reasoning supported press access to preliminary hearings in one of the few Idaho cases to address access to pretrial hearings, and that was the Cowles case. In Cowles, the Idaho Supreme Court noted that the process in conducting preliminary hearings in Idaho is likewise sufficiently like a trial to generally justify public access. And they pointed to the Supreme Court opinion in Press Enterprise 2, where they state that because of its extensive scope, the preliminary hearing is often the final and most important step in the criminal proceeding. The preliminary hearing in many cases provides the sole occasion for the public observation of the criminal justice system. And that may be the case in a motion to suppress hearing, particularly if either that motion is granted and not sufficient evidence exists to go forward, or even it is denied and a plea deal follows the resolution of the motion to suppress. In a Franks hearing, Your Honor, the court is addressing the very critical issue of whether a law enforcement officer made deliberate or reckless false statements in an affidavit submitted to the court. And prior to holding such a hearing, a court is to determine that whether the defendant has made a sufficient threshold showing that an actual hearing is necessary. An actual Franks hearing, in my experience, Your Honor, is unusual. On issues as critical as these, whether evidence was gathered properly and whether law enforcement made deliberate or reckless false statements to a court in gathering evidence, there is significant public interest, and public access plays a significant positive role in the functioning of the particular process as the court outlined in the earlier cases I've identified. It's particularly true here, I think, Your Honor, with the Franks hearing, where there is that question regarding the truthfulness of the officer involved. In any criminal case, I would submit that it's of extreme public interest to know whether a law enforcement officer swearing that they have told the truth in a filing with a judge that will be used to gather evidence that can significantly impact the life and liberty of an accused, whether that law enforcement officer did in fact tell the truth or whether the officer made deliberate or reckless false statements. I think it would be different, Your Honor, if it were a private citizen who made a misstatement of facts and there was a hearing about perhaps that person. The calculus might be a little bit different, but this is a person, a law enforcement officer who is cloaked with authority and has the ability to seek process, to get evidence, and ultimately lead to charges against an individual. Your Honor, the last thing that the court has to look at with respect to whether or not to close a hearing is whether there are alternatives to closure. And Your Honor, it is a little difficult in this situation for the interested parties to specify what that alternative to closure might be. But sort of looking at the documents that have been filed in this case and understanding that one of the initial concerns with the IGG evidence is the identity of perhaps family members of Mr. Kohberger, I would submit that there are two alternatives at least that might address that. One is that it's possible, of course, to show exhibits on a monitor in a hearing in court in a way that they're not displayed to people who might be watching online or in the courtroom, similar to what is done when there is a piece of evidence or an exhibit that is offered, but it's not yet admitted. I would also submit, Your Honor, that perhaps redactions or some sort of general identifier, person one or person two, in the place of a particular name would be sufficient if indeed the concern is revealing the names of relatives of Mr. Kohberger. That's very similar to a process that is done in healthcare fraud cases when we're dealing with individual patients whose records may be at issue in a case, and not a medical malpractice case, but a healthcare fraud case where we're looking at the billings, and those individuals are often identified, for example, by a random number or by a Medicaid identifier number, and not by their name. So their names are never revealed in the course of the proceedings. And so, Your Honor, we would submit that alternatives to closure such as that would be available to the court if the concern is identifying those particular names of people who are extended relatives of Mr. Kohberger. Finally, Your Honor, openness and transparency are more important than ever in maintaining and restoring public confidence in our government institutions, in our courts, in law enforcement, in prosecutors' offices, and in institutions of the media. Open hearings, like an open suppression hearing, are necessary to let the public see how this critical part of our criminal justice process works. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Does either the state or the defense wish to add anything based on Ms. Olson's argument that was not previously presented?
I would like to make a record on behalf of the defense.
Beyond what you did yesterday?
It would be consistent with what I did yesterday.
Okay, but I heard what you did yesterday. So do you have anything new to add?
He's like, don't repeat yourself.
I don't have new information to add, Judge, other than having the ability to talk with the team about what your suggestion was and our concerns about arguing in open court. Would you like me to just address that?
I'm not sure what you're referring to, so I apologize.
So we had discussed that the evidentiary hearing portion of it for the IGG would be closed.
Correct.
But that we would argue the legal arguments in open court if we did not talk about the evidence that was brought out in the closed hearing. And after thinking about it overnight and talking about it today, we do not think that we can parse the argument that way. So it's still our position that all of this should be held publicly, openly in court. And that's our same position with the Franks. The Franks proffer, with the exception that there will.
All right, guys. They just announced, our notification just came through that the new hearing is live. So we're going to stop this one for a second. It's just her argument about them, keeping everything unsealed and letting us see what's going on. Let me stop this screen and pull up the hearing. Uh-oh, hold on, sorry. Well, good Lord, where did it go? Hold on, let me get here. There we go. Okay. Sorry, it took me a second. I didn't mean to do that. Okay, let's get it up here. See what's going on. Yeah, it's not quite started soon. I mean, it will be starting soon, guys. So if you didn't get a chance to review that entire hearing, that was only like a half hour that we were just watching, they had some very good arguments, and then at the end, the judge did state that I was going to read you the. Well, we might can still do that. Let me see. It was his order governing today's hearing and tomorrow's hearing, and basically what he said is if there are parts that need to be, like I explained earlier, if there are parts that they feel like need to be closed out, they'll just do away with the audio and the cameras for a minute. And I think he did say that if there was anything that he saw that was fine, that they would release the transcripts for that. And he also kind of gave me the impression that once they got through the motions to suppress, because the way he explained it, if you put the, like if you go and held the hearings with these, like they did yesterday or the day before with the private hearing to discuss what can be openly discussed, I think that once they get through the motions to suppress stuff, then they may unseal a lot of this stuff. He's even said he's tired of sealing things that shouldn't be sealed as far as documents go, because there's really no reason to do so. Gag order pertains to people talking outside of the courtroom, not the attorneys in the courtroom, doing their arguments. So I don't know. He doesn't want the evidence out there that may not come in to taint the jury pool, is kind of the way he worded it. But so hopefully, we might get some unsealing eventually, especially after all this is over. Let's see. I'm looking at chat real quick. Genetic informants are protected as confidential informants by DOJ guidelines. Yeah. I get the IGG being closed to an extent. And I think a lot of the reason they want it closed is the FBI just doesn't want us to know what they actually may or may not be able to do. And I just watched, Nina, I actually have it. It was a court TV piece. I think it was 2 days ago that I haven't had a chance to share with you guys. And some of you may have seen it. But Cece was on there talking about the IGG stuff. And it was very interesting. I've seen her talk a million times, but I like to hear her talk about it. So if we get a chance after the hearings, we may review that. CC stated that it has been ruled on in at least 70 courts in the rule. Yeah, it has. And there's been IGG used in a couple of cases. I researched it. We know we've been told it's a tool. But even like when I was discussing the other day, if they apparently allegedly know that Brian Kohberger went into this CVS on the 16th of December, did they find that after they began to investigate him, like after the IGG stuff, the 19th, 20th, or did they have his name, prior into the 16th? They knew who he was and was already following him, because it's not clear in the document if he was followed and saw going into the CVS or if they learned he went into the CVS. And a defense attorney that I follow on Twitter and talk to a lot, she had a interesting statement to make. We all know there were 2 stops, not the Indiana stops, but in Idaho, where the seatbelt, or I'm sorry, pulling out into the intersection thing. We all saw that. Most of us have seen that one. There was another one that has never been released, and apparently it's Kohberger in his white Elantra, very close to the 1122 King home. Now, her thought process was maybe the reason it has never been leaked is they intend to use it in court, like some kind of video proof of something. So that's going to be interesting to see how that plays out with that particular. None of us can understand why, that's not out there yet like the rest of them. I'm going to refresh this page, guys, and make sure we're not missing anything here. No, it's still this portion of the hearing is closed. So I guess,
Oh yeah, it doesn't say court is about to go live. It says it's closed.
yeah, I just switched over to East Idaho News. Let me check something else. Law and crime. Yep, this portion is closed. See, we figured that this morning's portion may be closed. So while they're doing that, let me pull up this one doc I wanted to read with you guys. Okay, this was his. They're not real good about releasing stuff quickly on their website either. Because I have to make it big just so I can see. Hope you guys can see. Okay. Order governing proceedings for the 23rd and 24th hearings. Now, on the docket, there was a hearing for today, so I'm assuming there will be another one tomorrow as well. The hearing set for the 23rd and 24th in this matter will proceed as follows. Starting at 9 a.m. on the 23rd, the court will take up testimony. Okay, so they started an hour early from what, well, 9 a.m. The 9 a.m. portion. This court will take up testimony related to defendant's motion to suppress genetic information, which is the IGG, and defendant's motion for Frank's hearing insofar as it regards the IGG investigation. As indicated in the court's oral ruling, this portion of the hearing will be closed and sealed. Following the close of this evidence, the court will take up the following matters, which will be live streamed on a feed available to the public, subject to the court's determination to close any portion of that hearing by turning off live stream feed as necessary. Testimony related to the defendant's remaining portions to suppress, arguments of defendant's motion to suppress, arguments of the defendant's motion to compel. The fact that they were even granted the Frank's hearing is that's pretty rare, you know? They don't get those a lot in any jurisdiction. So maybe the judge is being fair, maybe he saw something in there. We'll see. The footnotes are: the court's oral ruling will be followed by a written order. The trial administrator will cause a notice to be seen. Okay, so we'll get the link when they decide. Let me check up on these. Oh, they were definitely. We have the court documents even state from the defense have stated that apparently they were watching Kohberger's family's home in PA, and they could see him going from room to room, walking around that house. Saw him jogging through the neighborhood, saw him walk over to the neighbor's garbage and, throw garbage away, things like that. Let me see if there was any other documents I wanted to read with you guys real quick. Oh, there was something interesting. So with this IGG stuff, now we know that they can use it going back to a tree and if, it lands on family members or whatnot. But she had an interesting comment about parts of this IGG information. Now, we spoke with Forensic Frenzy, what was it, last Sunday, Joe? I believe we had her on. And she was talking about how they believed the IGG landed back on Kohberger's sister and not directly on him. But I don't know if he was. There's rumors he was in 23andMe. There's rumors that that's all alleged. We don't know if he ever uploaded DNA. If he did he opt out of the law enforcement stuff? Did his sister do it and she not opt out of the law enforcement? We don't know. But one of Mercy's questions was, once they got to the sister and then they did a little investigating and got to him or anything like that, did they use parts of the IGG information to look at physical traits, i.e. bushy eyebrows, things like that? But it's so hard to tell which came first, that IGG, or if they found Kohberger on their own, or if it was all coming through at the same time. I don't know if that'll be a great debate for quite a while, don't you think, Joe? Did I lose Joe? Hang on one sec. I want to do something here. Nina, can you jump up for a few? If you can, let me know. You guys hear me okay? I feel like I'm talking to myself.
Yeah, I hear you, and I see it.
I'm dropping a link in the chat, guys, and it is for Nina. We've been threatening to have a show and have her up, but we just have not worked it out yet. So we'll get her up here, get her take on some things as well. I've watched a lot of her, some of the things that she's over on another channel with 12 Gauge a lot too, and she has her own channel as well. So I always check her out. Let me move this screen because we've read that. Here she comes. Good morning, Nina. Welcome in.
Good morning. How are y'all?
We're good. This is Joe Schmo. This is Nina.
Hey, Joe.
Hey, good morning.
So you and I do have a lot of feelings about this case in the same sense. There's things that you see that I may not have seen or thought of, and vice versa. And I've been watching a lot of your, talking about it. And I would so you got the chance to watch yesterday's hearing?
Yes.
What were your takes on that?
First of all, I think the judge is wearing Harley Davidson boots under that robe with his jeans. I mean, that's just the feel that I get from him. He's a total no nonsense. I'm not going to play around. And I think it's going to go for both sides. I really do.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, and I think that, and like you said a few minutes ago, don't repeat yourself. I mean, he might let you repeat yourself maybe once or twice, but he's not going to sit and listen to the same thing over and over again.
Not the same, exactly. And he knows this case has been taking, of course, these high profile cases take forever. It seems like, well, this one's taken a lot longer than Rick Allen's did, but this one's just got so many layers of what she's trying to get done and suppress, and I can't wait to get through these motions to suppress, because the judge, did you get the feeling from his wording that he may unseal a lot of this stuff after the suppression hearings are over?
Yes, I sure did.
Yeah, because he said he was tired of being asked to seal documents that he felt like didn't need to be sealed. It's like, well, you're the judge, but I guess if you denied the sealing, especially like if the defense asked for it and then you denied it, could they come back and use that later? You know what I mean? Like on appeal, like he didn't give us what we asked for, or whatever. But we saw all the craziness going down over there in Delphi with that kind of thing. But I don't know. I get the feeling that he's willing to let a lot of this be in the public. But I also understand not wanting to put all that evidence out there yet that may not come into court.
Right. Now, I have a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
The big deal is, okay, if you were guilty, would you want everything out in the public?
Right.
Do you think this could possibly be a ploy?
I go back and forth.
Yeah. I mean, because, I'm with my past and stuff like that, because everybody knows that, I'm a recovering addict, and I mean, I was one of those that said, here, here, you want to search my purse? Knowing it was in my purse. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So I was just wondering, I mean, what's the best way to say I'm innocent? Here, put it all out there, knowing that there's the gag order and everything's sealed and it's a high profile and it's not going to happen.
Yeah, and you would think with Ann standing in court saying, my client is innocent, he was out driving and your phone data state's going to prove that, and then all of a sudden she wants all that phone data out. It's like, well, why, if that was going to prove where your client was?
And see, that's another thing that's one of the things that, and believe me, I am one of those that if you've listened to me, I am open-minded. I mean, most of my comment sections and everything that I'm in are Kohbergers, and so I'm not a guilter that is just he's guilty burning,
Right.
I mean, I'm like you. I mean, if there's something that doesn't look right, or if it goes against my narrative, hey, I'm going to put it out there anyway. It's not about my narrative; it's about justice.
Exactly. Exactly. And and there are, and if you follow and I know you have followed the case for 2 years from the beginning as well. And it was like, if you even said anything negative about Kohberger, or if you even hinted that he could be the guy or things like that, you were just literally attacked. And I think it's calmed down now, because we don't, even like with Delphi or any of these cases, there's not going to be that many that I'm like, I know this person is guilty. I need to see the evidence. I'm 50-50. And even
Right.
that way with in the Delphi situation, even through the whole process, I kept an open mind. And I think a lot of jurors can do that as well. And like one of the defense attorneys on Twitter was saying, when you, even like with moving, because Anne wanted this moved, Anne got her wish. She might have got more than she bargained for, as far as getting it over to Ada County. But when you do your questionnaires of your jurors and you ask them, how much do you know about the case? Do you follow true crime? All the things, you can weed those people out so easily. And there are many people within communities who never pay attention to the local news. I'm one of those people.
Right.
My son tells me what's going on locally. I'm like all over the Twitter crime news, you know what I mean?
Come to think of it, since you said that, I don't know anything about my local news.
Right?
I mean, really, I've never thought about it. But since you brought that up, I mean, sitting here right now, I could not tell you anything going on in my hometown.
Yeah, me neither. I don't watch the local news. If I see it, I happen to see it on Facebook, which I rarely get on Facebook unless I'm sleuthing around.
Right,
So to
exactly.
speak. But then I'll be like, but my son keeps me abreast of if anything's going down around town. But yeah, I mean, I just don't know with a lot of this. I understand the need for gag orders in some cases, because I think we would highly scrutinize any evidence that was brought out in court. But then again, that's what we do in true crime. In the true crime community itself, we aren't actually the large jury pool. We don't live in Ada County. There may be some here that are into true crime that live there. I know there is. I have a friend who lives in Boise. Actually, there's 3 of them. They're an NFT team I used to work with. But one of them, he's an artist, and he doesn't follow true crime at all, but boy, his wife does. Like, she drove over to Rexburg and took a picture of Chad Daybell's old house, that she knew about the Idaho 4 stuff, but her husband and the 2 friends, they know nothing. They don't follow the news on it. They don't follow any kind of true crime about it. So they're part of that jury pool now. Ooh, that would be interesting if my friends got on the jury, because I might could get us an exclusive interview afterwards. I'm gonna have to hit them up and be like, hey, now, if you get called for jury duty, you better go.
Hey, I've been telling everybody, look, if you've got any money laying around, you might want to go invest it on a fixture-up house, because they're going to be renting Airbnbs and stuff like that out for outrageous prices.
Oh, yeah. And I know that the Gonzalez family is there. I think they got there I think they originally was going to attend that 21st, the hearing yesterday, but they
Right.
couldn't. But so I'm assuming they're still there. Why go all the way and then not stay for today or tomorrow's hearings? Now, tomorrow's hearing wasn't even on the docket yet. So as far as I know, they're in town, and they should be in the court today because this is pretty important stuff that they will be discussing today.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Now, I mean, I don't think that, because a lot of people are like, okay, this could mean dismissal. And I don't think it's to that extreme, but I don't know. I really don't. I don't think that it's to the point that he could, take stuff out that could cause a dismissal. I really don't think he's going to take anything out.
Mm-mm.
I was surprised that the Franks hearing got approved.
Me too, and I think that's basically based on this IGG stuff. Well, a part of it, apparently a part of it is the IGG stuff, and well, Lord, I just realized I got a piece of trim in my room off. So anyway, yeah, part of it is like the IGG stuff, but because Frank's hearings are rarely granted because you got to have some proof that something was done, and I don't know what they have, and I would sure be interested to know why the judge did grant the hearing, unless he's being fair, and let's hear it. Let's hear the motion, let's hear the argument, and let's see what we go, where we go from here. But a lot of this IGG stuff, even like Sleuthy and I had discussed, gosh, a year ago in a Twitter space, and I saw it talked about just again the other day about how this case is not going to be so much about, well, it's always about guilt or innocence, but it's going to set precedents as far as what can they use IGG wise moving forward. What can the FBI collect on you? There's a lot of things they can do that we don't know about. Do we want to know about all of it? You know what I mean? Like they caught the Golden State Killer using IGG. Did we care? No. Everybody wondered why it wasn't used over there in the Delphi case, but here it was used in Kohberger's case. I know it's, oh, no, that's not cool. So you can't have your cake and eat it too. If it's
okay,
used.
now, if I'm not mistaken, oh, and by the way, I've only been in true crime since February of last year, so I'm not even a year old.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's a lot of things that, when I first started, it was like, oh my gosh. And they're like, yeah, that got debunked. Yeah, we know about that. So I really had to play catch up and everything. So, but if I'm not mistaken, they did everything in camera with Judge, right? With the IGG.
They did have a closed hearing with that.
Okay. And then he made the ruling they had to, he chose what had to be handed over, but he gave them the right to see it. And then he gave the right to their investigators and stuff like that to
Yes.
see everything, right?
Most of it. He had Ann present all the IGG stuff to him. Judge did, and then he went through it and decided what could be talked about and not talked about. So there's been a lot of back and forth on this, and they keep saying it's to protect the family members on the tree.
Right.
And Hippler even said in yesterday's hearing that they could use initials. And
now, I do know that his dad, I can never remember the word. I know they're Catholic, but the community and everything that they live in, and if anybody knows the word, it's like SALANIEN or something like that. So it's a Catholic community, but it's like Saladian or something like that. And it had been said that all of them, including the dad, I guess the fathers or whatever of the community, had done DNA through that. So I was wondering if it came back to his father.
Well, they said that when they first did the IGG workup, that we don't know who it really landed on, but when they got
I think it said like hundreds of people.
Yeah, well, when they got to the home in Pennsylvania and they did collect some of the trash,
right,
they got male DNA out, but that male DNA matched what would have been the father of the person.
Right.
And so, where was all of Kohberger's DNA inside that trash?
It was in the trash can across the street.
It was exactly. Why would you do that? And I've heard all the arguments, oh, well, it was why
are you putting your trash in Ziploc bags? Because of the bears.
Yeah. Well, that's what you do in these communities when you have, recyclables. Excuse me, I've had recyclables and we were never required to put them into Ziploc bags. You gonna buy my Ziploc bags?
And why are you doing it with plastic gloves on?
And that's what we've heard, that when the cops made entry into the home. Now, this is all speculation, people. I know people get really heated, but we did hear that when they made entry into the home in Pennsylvania, they caught him at 1 a.m. in the kitchen bagging up his personal garbage items into Ziploc bags.
But did we hear that, or was that reported by law enforcement? So isn't there a difference?
It was reported by law enforcement. In the
Right.
very, or before the gag order, like in news pieces. We'll have to find that and play that eventually here. But yes, it was stated that that is exactly what was going on when they entered the home. And I'm assuming they'd already seen him at one point take garbage down to the
Yes.
neighbors.
Yes.
Because then they go in and he's ziplocking more. Like I'm assuming that would have been like his plastic spoon or his napkin that he was wiping his mouth with. What personal DNA type items could you be ziplocking up into plastic bags and going down to the neighbors? And everybody was like, oh yeah, well, if my can's full, my neighbor lets me use theirs. Well, I doubt theirs was that full. I mean, nobody else was going down there throwing out trash except for Kohberger himself.
Right.
You know, still doesn't prove he did anything, guys. I'm 50-50 on guilt or innocence. There's just not, you know, and I know there's not enough evidence out there yet, but there's not supposed to be at this point.
Well, you know, and that's another thing is, you know, one of my videos, I actually, you know, because Unfiltered Lucky actually challenged me, you know, because he was like, okay, when somebody tells me that he's guilty, nobody can tell me this is how and this is why. He said, so if you're going to do a video and you're going to say something about being guilty, you know, explain how and why. And so I took him up on that and I made a video about it. And so, I mean, the evidence, like, you know, they're like, there was nothing in the car. Okay. Well, they took the visor, the door panel, the seatbelt fasteners, the brake pedal, the gas pedal, you know, and the gag order was in place before any of the results from that came back. So we don't know what they found on the stuff that they took out of the car.
Exactly. We don't know, and everyone's assuming that, you know, there was nothing in the car, but they keep forgetting that, you know, you had 6 weeks to clean the car. So, and if you, in my opinion, in my
in my opinion,
yeah, if I put myself, because when I do like a profile, right, like I need to put myself in the mind of this person, and there's going to be a lot of things. So if he planned this, he took a lot of precautions to make sure things didn't get into the car once he got back to the car. And then you still had 6 weeks to make sure that car was clean. We all saw that it was dirty on the Indiana trip, or, you know, the trip back to Pennsylvania, but that's expected road grime. But as far as, I'm pretty sure that if this guy was the guy, he was extremely careful about getting out of that house and what he did with everything he had on before he got back into that car. Because it doesn't make any sense, you know, and we don't, just because Ann Taylor says there was nothing there, does that really mean there was nothing there?
But, you know, I mean, I hate to say it, but she did not say there was none. She said there was lack of.
You know, so there, you have to really take her words with a grain of salt and try to read into some of them sometimes, right? And
right.
I know that you know, hang on, I'm grabbing your YouTube channel so I can drop it in the link real quick for everybody.
And I mean, the thing about it is, if you really break it down, I mean, you know, everybody gets stuck on this 22,000. Well, the 22,000 white Elantras were for the state of Washington and the state of Idaho.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there was like 92 registered parking and like for U of I, and then like 80 something for WSU. And, you know, so if you, I rounded it up to like 250 in both cities, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And so even at that, you know, how many white Elantras are out at 3 o'clock in the morning? How many white Elantras are out at 3 o'clock in the morning, male driven? How many white Elantras are out at 3 o'clock in the morning, male driven, with a phone in the car that's turned off at the exact time of the murders? And then how many DNA shows up in between two dead bodies?
Wait, how do we know that the white Elantra that was seen on camera was driven by a male?
We don't know yet, unless they have better footage that we haven't seen. We haven't seen anything except leaked Linda Lane footage and a leaked photo by Steve Gonzalez of the camera angle from 1112. We don't know if they have say that the morning that he came in, well, allegedly he came back the following morning after the crimes around 9:30ish, spent about 10 minutes right there near the house. Does a camera see that car? I'm sure it's daylight at that point. So you're going to get a better look at that car. You might get a better look at that person in it. Now, if you go look at the Stefan Stearns documents, we have car video of him. We have screenshots of that car on the highway, and you can see that it's him driving that car. There's no doubt about it.
That's the reason I did that little short video about the 1126 address.
Girl, you had me so intrigued because I wanted to tell you about that. A lot of us have wondered, and we've been all over the maps. We've looked hard. Was there a camera there? Because I do have a piece. Let me pull something up real quick. Now, there was a time, and I don't know, I don't have it yet. I got to find it. But I'm sorry. I was just looking over at the chat at East Idaho News, and somebody wrote, "Who's Kohberger?" Oh, then she put a laughing face. I was like, no way, bitch. Come on. I can't distract myself. I'm going to lose my train of thought. But so, Olivia Gonzalez had came out. And, hey, Nina, always good seeing you on panel. Yeah, thanks, Christy. We've been wanting to get her up here for a minute, so I finally got the chance today. And welcome in. Thanks for coming. So Olivia Gonzalez had said in the very beginning that, and at the time we didn't know where cameras were located. Then we found out there was one at 1122 or 1112 that faced the intersection of King and Queen. They could see anything coming and going car-wise. Olivia stated that they could see the girls come home in their drive share.
Right.
They could see the girls walk the dog.
Right.
Now I can see 1112 seeing that because they would see the driver's car come in, right, headed toward their house. Right. And it would also say if Kaylee and Maddie went out the front door and walked Murphy down toward Jack's because they were calling Jack relentlessly. And Jack's like, "I'm done with you tonight, Kaylee. We're not talking no more. I'm not answering the phone." Did they walk that dog down toward Jack's just to see how many cars were down there? And You know how girls can be.
Right.
When they did they walk past one all the way to the stop sign? And 1112 saw that. And then they turn around, they walk Murphy back in. I don't know, unless there is a camera where you suggested over there at 1126.
Did you see one of the pictures where I did like the little loopty thing? And because if there's a camera there, because the statement that he says in the letter is the vantage point from other cameras. Okay.
Yes.
And the thing about it is the vantage point that camera would have is everything.
I have that. Let me go to your channel real quick and pull that up because I have it, but I don't know what I did with it. I thought I had it saved for today's show.
And they talk about, the 3-point turn and trying to park. And I'm like, wait a minute, 1112 wouldn't see that. They may see the headlights on buildings or something. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. That was my conclusion. When I thought about that, is like, how do they know this car is attempting to turn around and park in front of that home?
Right.
Unless the 1122 or 1112 sees headlights moving around and they're assuming that's what happened. So is it your what if video? Where's is that the one that has Steve talking as well?
Yes.
Okay. Let me pull this up, guys. And
By the way, Nina, I just saw your subtitle there. Mouth runs faster than brain. Because that's honestly, that's 90% of the population. 90% of us just like we have that, but it's a rare person that acknowledges it, recognizes and acknowledges it.
Oh,
Well, I actually got that title from 12 Gauge. I was on his panel one night doing a Elliot Roger thing, and he was like, "You need to come with a warning label."
yeah. Elliot Roger, that's a whole other subject we're going to have to get into eventually.
Well, Lucky, Unfiltered Lucky and I started a series on the incel subculture last night.
Well, okay, I've only watched Unfiltered a few times. Isn't he in the camp of innocent?
Unfiltered Lucky, I'll be honest, he's my mentor. He's been mentoring me for about 3 months now. And he's one of those that he just can't wrap his head around it.
Mm-hmm.
But he's one of those that if he could see something, he would go right over to guilt. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah.
But there's still that. It's sort of like, sort of like with me. If somebody showed me something that said that he was at Wawa Park, then I would say, "Oh, guess what? I was wrong." Right. I mean, and the thing about Lucky is, like, he had me on a couple of months ago, and oh my gosh, there was like 950 comments, and 850 of them was like, "Who is this woman? Get her off here."
Right. It used to happen to me over at a channel I used to be involved with, and I would be one of the only ones to question things or to assume that, hey, this guy could be the guy, guys. And, oh, no, you need to shut your mouth. What are you, crazy? Can you read the documents? Well, yeah, can you?
Right.
I'm not screaming, make it make sense. I'm going to find research and make it make sense.
Exactly. And I mean, that's the thing about it is, I guess my research, sometimes I go overboard with the research. I mean, because it's like I'll go down rabbit holes until I'm like, until I can't even find my way out.
I know,
my rabbit holes lead to tunnels, and tunnels lead to the Christ Church and the.
Girl, I've always said, especially with this case, and then finally into Idaho or Delphi, it's okay to go down them rabbit holes, but you better know when to come out, right?
Exactly.
And I have been down so many rabbit holes with Idaho, all the alternative stuff that was rumored out there, because none of that's been brought up in a court document like in Delphi. So it's all based in rumor and WSU Mom Kim stuff and crazy TikTokers and
no.
I mean, I've seen.
I don't do the Idaho goblins and stuff like that.
Yeah, I don't. There's no basis behind any of it, and unless I see Ann bring something out in a court filing, then I'll be like, okay, I'm down with you, Ann. Let's get behind this. Let's watch this piece real quick, because Steve does have some. Now I know a lot of people have their feelings about the Gonzalez's, but as I've stated before, here on this channel, I don't go after parents because that's not my child. And losing a child is a devastating thing, and especially to this sort of crime. You don't know. You haven't walked in their shoes. You don't know what they're thinking. They're being told one thing by law enforcement. They've been told so much by YouTubers as well. Has the man needed to sit down and take a break a few times? Yeah, probably so. But do you, Steve? I've got no real issue with them.
The thing about it, though, is, Salty, I know that that I've buried my son.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that that's one of the reasons that I'm such an advocate for the families.
Exactly.
Is one of the things that I said in one of my videos is, okay, fine. He's arrogant sometimes. He's a know-it-all sometimes. Okay, we'll give him that. But also, I ask people, shut your eyes and think about a daddy is supposed to protect their little girl.
Mm-hmm.
Think about the guilt and the regret that man has.
Yes. And I don't think that people who have lost, I may be wrong. There are probably ones who have lost children who still hate on the man, but I'm right there with you. I have a child gone. I've lost a child.
I didn't know that. I'm so sorry.
Well, thank you. It's this March will be 20 years, so it's been a hot minute. She was 16, but it was a unexpected medical thing that came up, but it wasn't a violent crime. But either way, when you lose a child, that first year is such a blur. You don't
Right.
even remember a lot of the things you said or did. And with this family, there's no moving forward yet, or there's never closure. There's learning to live with it. And right now they're in the thralls of it. You know what I mean? They don't know what to think. So yeah, I don't go after the parents either because I just don't think it's right. If you don't agree with what he says, you just don't have to agree with it. You know what I mean? But as far as ripping them new ones on the internet for talking, hell, you're on the internet talking about the man. You know, I mean, so why doesn't the father of the victim have the right to come and talk? So that's my opinion. All right, well, let's play this real quick.
I have leaked footage. I've seen things that they may have not seen. I know for a fact the path that this white salon, this car took, and people are going to wonder what he was doing when he parks in certain locations for extended amount of time. What was he looking at? I want to know what he was looking at, and I don't know how you can.
Oh my God, I didn't have music.
You're good. Right now, CapCut's being all crazy if that's who you use.
Yes.
It's back up for me, but it's not letting me have some music for some reason. So
I mean,
here's
look at that
112.
point of view right there.
Yeah, this is 1126, guys. The house next to over here on the left is going to be your 1112, and there's a back door on the other side of that home. Like there you go. There's an entryway back here.
Mm-hmm.
Like for another apartment type thing. So was there a ring camera there, you know? And like she's got it shown here, it can see right toward the 112. And it would have seen, even if they were coming in and out of the back door, right?
Yes.
It would have seen that as well. That has not been mentioned, and I think it came back up now. Hold on, something had happened. Maybe it's just replaying. Let me get this. Oh, that's what it was. But yeah, we don't know if there was a camera there, and if there was, I haven't talked about it publicly because we know that we do know they had the one at 1112. The police took the camera. That's where we are assuming that's where the noises could be heard because it says
Right.
camera 50 feet away. You know, from Xana's bedroom, that would have been.
Yes.
Could have been either camera, actually.
I would go more with the 1112,
Mhm.
just because of it being on the front of the house.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know though, because her being on the front of the house, and if 1126 was on the back of the house, it'd be about the same distance because you got to go to the front of the house on 1112.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I just
Sorry,
thought
I
about that.
overanalyze sometimes.
No, I do too. I get like, I have to come up for air too. But we have wondered, even was there cameras? Because there's that little concrete path that comes up from Taylor Ave. If you cross the Banfield from Sigma Chi and you cross
Yes.
the Banfield, you can go up that concrete sidewalk, and then those stairs. When you get to the top of those little concrete steps, you're looking right at the King Road house.
Yes. Yes.
We didn't know if there was like cameras there.
Well,
Now,
see, somebody had mentioned something about 721, 720, 7.
yes.
But I
And
don't know. I mean, has that ever been proven or?
no. Mm-mm. And like any footage they have, Linda Lane was just leaked. It was sold to somebody.
Oh yeah.
And
Oh yeah.
Sleuthy has a great video out on how that actually occurred, but or her take on how that occurred. But so that we know that was sold for $1,000. I mean, come on. But
Come on, don't you know he regrets that sale if he knew what he knew now?
right. I mean, and people want to be like, oh, it's fake. It's fake. It's not. It's actually genuine and it's real. But any other footage that they're planning on using, because they've mentioned other footage in the PCA, but we don't know. We also know there's a camera back there on Walenta, because Walenta turns into Ridge Road.
Right.
Like, is a corner there, or a curve rather. There is a house that in the very beginning, when all the gag order went out and everything, there was a house that was blurred out right there.
Yes.
And that house has a perfect vantage point of Willenta Drive. We know he was back there at some point driving. And like Steve says, let me go back to that for a second because he had something I wanted to talk about.
And now that's only a little bitty clip. I mean, that's a really informative interview because they're actually talking about the Chapins being okay with the house being torn down.
Mhm.
And that's what he's talking about is he has seen things that they haven't.
Exactly. Because we need to find that whole interview, you know what I mean, to watch the whole context of it. Because I like to do that. Let me get back over here for a second because there was something I wanted to. Good Lord, why is my thing not wanting to work right today? It's so crazy.
And see, that's like one of the things that I just found out the other night was I went back and I read every one of his Tappa Talk.
Oh, I've got them all too.
Well, did you notice the one is like April of 2011 where he talks about the diet, the Kaufman diet and stuff for the candida overgrowth?
Mm-hmm.
And so if you keep going with it, see, I've always thought that he started the vegan diet because of the visual snow.
Oh.
Well, come to find out, he did the Kaufman diet because of the candida overgrowth that he felt caused the visual snow.
Well, it sounds like to me he could have an autoimmune disease.
Oh.
Don't know which one. Especially with the candida stuff going on. I know a lot about autoimmune disease, unfortunately. I have it. So does my mother did, and my 18-year-old was just recently diagnosed. But I have all those type of talks as well. We need to do a show one evening and go over some of that stuff. People may not like it, but I don't, oh well, this is opinions, and we can talk about what's out there. This stuff is out there, and it's not like it's made up out of thin air. It's always bothered me is like, why was Kohberger off limits to talk about when every other defendant we just see in a trial coming up, we talk about,
Oh, honey, I have a 2-hour live of me just ranting. I mean, ranting. I mean, I'm throwing out the F-bomb and everything. And on the front of it, it's got like bleachers. And I'm like, okay, we don't need defendant chair. We need defendant bleachers.
Yeah.
Exactly. We can accuse everybody in the United States down to law enforcement and judges and everything else. But no, we can't say he did it.
Exactly. Or even allude to the fact that he could have been, it's just crazy. So I've decided, I was nervous in the beginning when I first started the channel to even cover Kohberger, but I knew that I was going to regardless. And I'm going to cover it my way. And I'm always, trying to make sure it's my opinion, and I'm 50-50 because I really, really am. There's a lot of evidence that could get thrown out. That's the thing, going back to making sure that law enforcement does everything right. Because if you got the right guy and he gets off because of something you did wrong, that is a damn issue, But I want to play this one more time. Yes. Welcome in, girl. Welcome in. I'm assuming you're a girl.
Libertarian. Kohberger's a libertarian.
Yeah. Okay. So I wanted to play this again so I want to talk about something.
I have leaked footage. I've seen things that they may have not seen.
So that's what she was talking about, where taking the house down. Because Steve's basis is because seeing where this car parked, what was it looking at? And he doesn't know if the Chapins have seen what he has seen, and probably not, because they don't communicate a lot. They're very, very, very different families, and that's okay as well. I like the way Stacy handles her stuff. I worry about Christy, but so let's finish this because I want to hear what he says about the car itself.
I know for a fact the path that this white salon, this car took, and people are going to wonder what he was doing when he parks in certain locations for.
So, if you go down Walenta Drive, there's that area that leads down to the arbitrarium,
Yes,
and there is a pull-off parking pad there.
yes.
And the foliage during November is not real great. There's not a lot out there. You can see that house. You
Well,
can
see, I didn't realize that until, oh my gosh, I forgot. Yoli put a comment in this video right here talking about the Scott Green's house with the foliage and everything, that he can see straight to there.
Mhm.
And I'm like,
Yeah.
what? Where's Scott Green live? I had to go look it up. I mean,
Oh, yeah, he don't live far, but he lives on the other side there by the water
right.
tower area thingy.
But when I went over there to look at it, I was like, wow, that is the foliage and everything, just like you're talking about. It's like a clear view.
So if you got a college campus like this, or a college town, people are walking around all the time, and Walenta Drive wouldn't have been any different because you can walk back there to the arbitrarium, you go for walks, whatever, and that is right behind the King Road home. And they
Now
know
that's
that
where the stairs are, right?
no,
No,
well, actually, there are some stairs back there too that lead down
right.
toward the arbitrarium that go toward Emma Bailey's house.
Yes, yes,
Lo and
yes.
behold. But but there's a lot of spots, like even if you were to park somewhere and you get out and you walk like a lot of the kids did, and you were walking up and down Walenta, you could have been looking right. There's so many locations on Walenta to peer right through the woods at that house. All you got to do is go to Google Maps, put in that year, and you can see the time frame with the foliage the way it was, and there's so many clear visual spots toward that house. Does Walenta Drive have him back there? Because we know he entered at 324 or whatever it was into the area, the neighborhood. There were the 4 passes. Where was he parking other
Right.
than behind the home? Did he park anywhere on Walenta at some point to look, before he made his way back over to because 4 times you come through that area before you decide to do anything, whoever was driving that white sedan.
Well, and the other thing to consider is that was in November, so the leaves are off the trees, so the foliage is not even a consideration at that point. The leaves are off the trees in late November.
Exactly. You can
And see,
see
that's the reason that I wondered, like with him parking behind the house, in that little parking area with 1126, it would be a clear view.
oh, very clear. And like we all know, Maddie had her pink cowboy boots in her window, her pink M in the window. It was obviously Maddie's room. And I don't, if Brian Kohberger, whoever entered that home, I feel like she was the target because they went straight to that room first. They went straight to Maddie's room. They didn't go to Dylan's room. They didn't go towards Xana's. They didn't go downstairs to look for Bethany. They didn't enter Kaylee's room first, unless they did and then took her over to Maddie's room. But it feels like whoever did that knew that was Maddie's bedroom. And it was obvious from the back of the house. And these girls were posting all over Instagram. And I know there was no known connection, no following and all that. But as you dig into some of the documents, that's even the Garrett discovery. I did that show like last Sunday. I think Forensic Frenzy came on and talked about that. A lot of folks don't believe it, but that document came out very, very early on and it made the connection. But then people wanted to go discount it and debunk it, but they don't have the means to do that. They just say, oh, that's not true. That can't be true. The defense says it's not true. But this came straight out of Garrett discovery stuff. And we know Kohberger had 2 phones. We know they took a lot of electronic devices from his parents' home. You don't have to do your stalking and following on your main phone. You can have, like, look, Rex Horman had 15 damn burner phones to do his deed with.
Well, I mean, I know that they have, I think they have 11 computers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
They
I
took
think
a lot of it, and a lot of that came out of the Pennsylvania, but it made me wonder, he bring most of that with him from his apartment? Like any extra laptops, because there were several now some of that could have been older stuff he just left at mom and dad's while I go away to school, but because in his apartment, there was the TV, the Fire Stick or whatever, but there were no electronics at the apartment, like
Right.
laptops or anything like that. So he loaded that stuff up with him and took it with him, especially
Now,
if you're nervous and think maybe they might be on to me, I feel like I'm being followed, let me take all my stuff with me. But if I was following him, I'd be outside that apartment complex with a camera watching him load all that shit in that car.
yeah.
I mean, that's just me. Like, I'll spy on your ass if I was.
Well, he had to leave because he was kicked out of the program, right? Because of the complaints
Not
against
yet.
him.
No. He wasn't. Okay. So he had complaints already, right? And they were going through a process, like a probationary period with him, where he had to change or to do this or that. And allegedly, the trip to Pennsylvania was pre-planned to go home for the holidays. So we don't know if he had planned to come back, because we know that at that point he knew he was on a thin line with his TA job, right? He'd already gotten turned down for the position in Pullman for whatever bizarre reason. He was already having the issues. So from what we can piece together through articles and things of that nature, he didn't actually get terminated from the TA till after he left. So
Okay.
it wasn't, yeah. So we
And
don't know.
and the trip was pre-planned, and
Yes.
I always questioned, why did his dad fly out to drive with him? But when you drive across the country, if you have a driving partner with you, it makes it so much easier.
True
Because I've
that.
done it alone. I've done it alone, and I've done it with my son, with one or the other of my sons, and it's much easier when you have somebody with you. So
Well,
that's not necessarily suspicious on its face.
it's not suspicious, but if you look at Brian Kohberger, okay, when he moved into those apartments, his dad approached one of the neighbors. My boy doesn't make friends very well. Could you be his friend? Sure, I'll invite him to the pool party, which he did.
That's creepy. That's
when he-
creepy.
That's what I'm saying. So I think he was very dependent upon his parents. And then when he was in Pennsylvania still, before his mom has wrote, I've got that stuff somewhere as well saved, and we'll have to go through this stuff one night with the Tappa Talk type stuff. But his mother, her baby, 28, finally going away for the first time, things of that nature. He was coddled almost, you know what I mean, by mom. I don't think so much by dad. I think dad's like, you little shithead, get it together. You got in trouble in high school. You got onto the drugs. You stole your sister's iPhone. Dad had had enough of him to an extent, probably, but that's still his son. So what are you going to do? But it feels like, and mom, I don't know. It just feels like he was, if you look back if you honestly take a look at Kohberger's history, from what we do know, people who have spoken and articles, he began to develop problems preteen. And as he got older, those problems progressed. That doesn't make him a murderer. That's not what I'm saying. But you can't discount that type of stuff. And people are like, well, why would he ruin his career, his criminology, all this? Well, sorry, but Golden State Killer was a police officer. BTK had a criminology degree. Ted Bundy, criminology, wanted to be an attorney. These guys, and then I was on another channel talking about, oh, Brian Kohberger looks normal and normal can't hurt you. Excuse me? I'm more afraid of that normal looking dude in the BMW than I am of that homeless dude on the corner.
Amen.
You don't never know, you never. Hey, Gritty, welcome in, girlfriend. So let's finish this for a second, because I'm very curious. Where did this car park? What was he doing? Did he only park behind the home?
Extended amount of time. What was he looking at? I want to know what he was looking at. And I don't know how you can.
Let's see. if the house itself was a target, which remember they said that in the beginning, which was the theory from the beginning, you just, which is the supposed reason the University of Idaho called off their campus-wide warning while BK was still not apprehended. Why was the house a target and its access, exit points, and driveway configuration for a vehicle to enter, exit, turn around? Vantage points of other camera evidence pointed toward the house. And I agree. It feels like that they had a, I think there's going to be more cameras than we're aware of. How many parents told their kids when they moved in, hey, put a Ring camera up. I want you to be safe. You know what I mean?
Well, I do know that they've got like 8,000 video clips from 10 homes.
Oh, yeah, they do. And I forget how many businesses they do as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's like way up there.
Yeah, it's listed.
And I'm going to tell you, the one business that sticks out to me is Umpqua Bank.
Now, okay, so I wanted to ask you a question about that because I went to revisit that that warrant, and I saw what you had said. Go ahead and talk about what you had to say.
Well, with the Umpqua Bank, if you're like me, when you see the bank, you're like, oh boy, more financials,
Yep.
But then when you go down through there and you look, it's actually sent to the FedEx email. And I was like, Umpqua Bank, FedEx, I'm confused. So I had to go look. Well, what it is Umpqua Bank is on this side and FedEx is on the back side, And so I sit there and, then it talks about the GPS. I mean, that it has nothing to do with financials. It is, they want the camera footage. And so when you go and look, if you come across, I know it turns into Highway 8. What is it, 270 in Washington that turns into 8?
Yeah.
If you come across that from Pullman and you turn right on Washington Street, which is also Highway 95, and you go right in front of Umpqua Bank, and it is at the crossroads of 6th Street and Umpqua Bank. And if they have that camera, I'm telling you right now, they've got whoever on that camera is seen.
I went and looked at the location after you talked about that, and then I went to revisit that particular warrant. I'm fixing to pull that up for a second. Because in the warrant that I read, there's only one for that bank, right?
Yes.
And it does say it wanted the financials. Let's see.
Well, the one I'm talking about was the one that was in the 769 pages.
Oh, okay. So it wasn't in this one.
No.
Because this one says that if you go down, oh, where's it at? Let's see. Because there were so many damn banks.
Oh, yeah. And that's the reason I almost overlooked it, because I was like, damn, more financials.
He obtained a search warrant for the bank. The warrant was served by FedEx, like you said. He got the email. An inventory was prepared of all items. The information received was placed into evidence. Because right here, description of property, financial records for Ethan Chapin, Maddie.
No, yeah, see, the one that I have is none of that. Okay, where it says they sent it to the email for FedEx, and then down on those lines that you just had for the financials, it says about the camera. And it's in like I said, it's in the 769 pages.
We'll have to pull that up. And look, these were redacted, whoever these financial records were for.
And then the UPS truck camera.
I remember hearing about the truck camera. Because, they caught Stefan Stearns on a video, like when he left in the middle of the night and went back over to his parents in, was it Newport, whatever the hell it was called. There was a traffic accident, and the body cam, or the the police cruiser had his camera going, and they see Stearns come right past that incident, like a mile from his parents' home. So
True Grit says, did she say 769 pages?
yeah, wasn't that in the original Frank stuff that
The 769 pages is all those that they unsealed like all at one time. It's like, and see another one too, if you think about it, what do y'all know about Yik Yak?
a little bit? And
Yeah.
that's so, yeah.
See, Yik Yak is in that 769 pages.
But which filing was that? Oh my God, there's been so darn many.
Yeah, it's oh goodness.
Yik
Oh,
Yak,
mine.
wasn't Yik Yak like an app mainly used by college students, right?
Yes, and what happened was, Yik Yak went away, but then a couple of
Mhm.
years ago, it made a comeback with all the college kids.
Yes.
But Yik Yak only puts you with people within 5 miles radius.
Yeah.
So
And
it is
wasn't there a
constantly
warrant?
updating your location.
Wasn't there a warrant for Yik Yak?
Oh yeah, there's 3.
Mm-hmm. See, these are early. This is, oh, I don't have my screen up. Sorry, guys. And they're still having the closed hearing, so we're just chit-chatting.
But
So Yik Yak is like social media that's kind of like TikTok meets Facebook meets something else.
yes, and what it is it hooks you up with people that are in a 5-mile radius of you, so it's constantly updating your location. And now what happened was there was a high school student or a college student, and he was going to do a school shooting, and they caught wind of it. And they actually traced him from his Yik Yak location and got to him before he got to the school. And that was from his Yik Yak location. That's how precise it is.
Yeah, and when Yik Yak went away and then came back, like she said, it began to be used by the college kids. Let me pull up.
And the search warrant is for Kohberger's Yik Yak account.
Okay, here we go. You guys can see that. Let me try to. I keep refreshing the page over here to see if this hearing gets opened yet. So let me check.
Yeah, I see it.
It's still closed. Right? Okay, let me. All right.
See, because the 769 pages is also where the federal, a lot of these are the federal ones that defense is talking about.
Yeah. Okay, let me try to get this big enough where I can read it. This matter came. Why is it not? Hold on, guys. Let me try to make this a little bigger to come out all the way. Okay. This matter came before the court on February 10th, 2023, on the court's motion to seal or redact pursuant to ICAR 32I. The hearing was held via Zoom. William Thompson Jr. and Ashley Jennings appeared on behalf of the state, and Taylor appeared on behalf of Mr. Kohberger. The court reviewed the records, considered the arguments presented, weighed the interest in privacy and public disclosure, and announced its findings of fact on the record. Therefore, pursuant to Idaho court rules are cited, the court finds it necessary to seal in part and redact the record related to the search warrant for the following reasons. The documents contain highly intimate facts. Aren't you so tired of hearing that? Highly intimate facts. Highly intimate. Well, shit is all intimate. It was a crime. But, so let me go down because this is really not going to tell us a whole ton. Necessary to preserve a fair trial. Okay. Based upon the motion to seal the warrant related documents filed herein, the court does hereby confirm and order the affidavit of the search warrant, including the exhibits, to be sealed.
And see, that's one of the things that I pick up on is the exhibits. If there's not anything, why is there exhibits?
Exactly. And then this one, it says the same thing: motion to seal the search warrant and related documents. The state of Idaho code. My grandson's got that TV blare, and he just woke up. There's no school again today. Order sealing search warrant related documents, including in the affidavit for search warrant, including any exhibits. Search warrant return of the search warrant, including the inventory of the items seized. Now, we've been able to see a lot of these search warrant returns, and some of the stuff's been redacted, but a lot of it hasn't. Well, let me take that back. The search warrant returns from the apartment search and the Pennsylvania search, we see all that. But everything else is a little crazy. State respectfully prays that the court seal from the public disclosure the affidavit of search warrant return. I want to see the return of the yik yak. You know what I mean? I mean, that to me is important. Lawrence Mallory, he's just attesting to who he is and that he certifies that he did get the return of the search warrant. And again, his just sworn affidavit of who he is. Here we go. Let's see. It's not going to see it. It's got everything blocked out. And 26th day of January, 8:30, Detective Mallory served the search warrant described therein. Now, how do we know for a fact this was Kohberger's? See, the IMEI number is blocked out. Everything's redacted that's in there.
If I'm not mistaken, it says it somewhere.
It would have been up here, and let's see, in the matter of the application for a search warrant for Yik Yak. And it could have very well be his Yik Yak. I mean, what if he was using that app, you know? Because it doesn't state exactly who it's for that I've seen, but I could be mistaken. I may be missing it completely.
Oh, I'll have to go back and read now.
So whatever happened to Yik Yak, like the app?
As far as I know, it's still going.
Yeah, I think it is too. I think it
kind
is.
It kind of sounds like a cross between. I said something earlier, but I think it's like TikTok and Snapchat, maybe a cross between those.
Yeah, but see, with Yik Yak, everything's anonymous.
Mm-hmm.
What? So how do you meet people? So how do you meet people then? Do you just meet anonymous strangers that are within 5 miles?
It's like Telegram. Telegram is something that Stefan Stearns like to use a lot. It's heavily encrypted and things hard as hell to get into that app. Hard for law enforcement to get into that app. And when
True Grit says Google says that Yik Yak was taken down.
It may have been. Yeah, it may have been because of I think it had a lot of issues. But even like with the Telegram, say, you know, pedos, they tend to find each other, right?
See, that was what I knew about Yik Yak because, you know, I have a 16-year-old granddaughter. And so she said something about Yik Yak one time, and I'm like, what is that? You know, and because she was talking about what it was they were all talking, and come to find out the guy was like in his 40s. And I'm like, whoa, get off that app now, you know.
Yeah.
Wow. If it's anonymous, it is a danger. It's a danger.
But say the 769 that you were just in, that's the one that has the Umpqua Bank.
Let me try to look for something that I had here real quick. Let's see. Oh, I should have it actually in its own folder. Let's see.
I mean, you know, that's like, you know, 4chan being anonymous. You know, Alec Manasian, the one that drove the van through Toronto, in honor of Elliot Rodger. He said he states in his police interrogation that the only people that knew about what he was going to do was when he announced it on 4chan.
Yeah. I don't know how I did this. Let's see. I'm trying to get this pulled up on the StreamYard for you guys, but every time I try, it closes out. What I'm doing here. Okay, hold on. Maybe this will have it. Nope.
Oh, thank you, True Grit.
Let me read this to you guys. Now, on the Yik Yak, he went by the name XR. Those with visual snow.
Yep. That's
And
what.
this one, yeah,
Who
this one
did?
says
That was Kohberger did?
Kohberger's name on the Yik Yak. I'm sorry, Tapatalk.
Yeah.
This is a Tapatalk post. He was XR, which is EXARR. Those with visual snow, because he's always complained about his visual snow. So this is May 12th of 2011, and it says, number 1, I always feel as if I'm not there, completely depersonalized. Mentally, I experience fog, lack of comprehension at some times, feel like my life is a movie, depression, no interest in activity, constant thought of suicide, crazy thoughts, delusions of grandeur, anxiety, poor self-image, poor social skills, no emotion. I feel like nothing has a point to it. When I get home, I am mean to my family. This started when visual snow did. I felt no emotion, and along with the depersonalization, I can say and do whatever I want with little remorse. Everyone hates me. Pretty much, I'm an asshole.
Now, see that. Sorry, Joe.
Was that when he was in high school? Because that was 2011. Was that high school
2011.
age?
How you asking me to do math right now?
Oh yeah, he was 7. He started Tapatalk in 2009 when he was 14.
Yes.
Right.
That's why you can go back and you can tell that a lot of his problems were already, if he has them, they were, which obviously I think he does, they were emerging during the preteen, and he was becoming quite aware of, guys, if I accidentally throw myself out of StreamYard, I'll be back. Let me pull up another one here. Still waiting. Let me check this hearing.
But see, that's like people think that I'm absolutely crazy, but I mean, I have pictures of like 6 females, and I actually did a video called Prototype, and I mean, it may just be me, and I'm not saying that they look exactly alike, but there's a type. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And 3 out of the 6 are dead.
So you're saying Kohberger had a type?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Okay, let me get to where's my Tapatalk? Where did it just go?
It's interesting you say that, because the last time I was in West Lafayette, Indiana, before I came to do the snowbird thing out here in Arizona, I went to the West Lafayette Walmart and got some supplies, took them out to my dad's house. But while I was in the Walmart, I walked out of the Walmart behind 2 girls that so reminded me of 2 of the girls, Kaylee and Maddie, that were like best friends. And I'm like, these are college students, because it's Purdue University. It's a college town. And I'm like, they could have been like identical twins. Obviously they weren't anywhere close. Like if I were to take a picture and you were to see them, but just like if he had a type, then, and he had no remorse for any of his actions, then that's totally a recipe for he could have done it. I'm not saying he did, because I haven't seen all of the evidence yet, just like in Delphi with Richard Allen. But it's like, if he had a type and he was in a college town and he was within driving distance of another college town, it's like, it makes sense. It tracks. Like, it totally tracks.
And these Tappa Talk posts, this was May 14th, 2011. He would have been almost 17.
Right.
So this one, the topic was weed and will it affect me? I'm young and I want to give weed a try. I was just about ready to do it yesterday, but I changed my mind because I remember a lot of people from this forum saying it affected their snow. Have you smoked weed? Has it affected your snow, permanently or temporarily? What other effects did it have? Thanks. By the way, I have almost all symptoms recorded on this site and some more that aren't. And then the next post, he says, if you're worried about, okay, that was a question somebody was asking. I'm sorry that I just read. Kohberger's response was, if you're worried about the visual snow, it will get worse, even if it does get better. I say no, it makes it worse. But we know that when he came off of the heroin, he did turn to medical marijuana.
Right.
And there were green leafy substances found in the apartment or on him when he got to in Pullman, Pennsylvania, when they got him there, right?
Right.
There was green leafy substances, and I've got no issue with God's medicine. I'm just gonna say it.
Yeah.
I have no issues at all. I think it's way better than alcohol any day of the year. But so I think he was experimenting because we know he got on the heroin for a while. Then he had, gotten off the heroin. There was a lot of things in his past, even with the teacher who, where he was thrown from.
Yes.
I'm sorry, True Grit. Are you asking? Okay, Joe did drop it. Yeah, we dropped it earlier, way up in the chat, but Joe got you. Thank you, Joe.
And I mean, if you think about it, I'm right along there with you, Salty, because, he ends up at Brandywine, for the eating disorder.
Mm-hmm.
And, so you've got hospitalized for eating disorder. I did meth for 16 years. Okay. And I'm 12 years clean. But the thing about it is, how often do you hear of a high school student being hooked on heroin?
It's exactly.
I mean, that's major.
Apparently, though, when in Pennsylvania, it was kind of a thing.
Right.
Because even his friends have come out and spoke about they weren't all on it, but what was her name?
Ashley Flugel.
Well, she's the one that passed away, right? Of
Yeah.
the OD.
Yes.
It was Arnt's Casey come out and said that there was this one time, she gave him a ride and she didn't realize she was giving him a ride to go pick up his drugs and things of that nature, but he did kick the habit, and when he got into the rehab and all that good stuff. So I think he did go through a lot. And I wondered, though, did he turn to the drugs because of the thoughts he was having?
Well, see, I've wondered because, he had the skin removal surgery. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure with skin removal surgery, they probably gave him painkillers.
Mm-hmm.
And, a lot of times when the painkillers run out, that's when they find heroin.
Yes, if you become addicted to the painkillers, that was my understanding, because I didn't even know what type of stuff, what heroin did to you or whatever the case, or what it was, pain medicine, whatever. And I had someone to explain it to me one time. So that makes sense that if you have these, the surgery he had, and then go through all of that, and then you're on the pain meds, and your body's become addicted after a while. It is what it is. Did he move on to something stronger after that? Right. Especially if he was, and you also couple that with, I got the visual snow, I've got these weird thoughts, I don't know what to do with, why am I having these weird thoughts? All of that stuff was probably a heavy load on a teenage kid. Do you know what I mean?
Right. Oh, yeah. And I mean, I'll tell anybody, I'll give him props on his tenacity and his, I guess, his will to overcome. I mean, he gets kicked out of high school. He doesn't get kicked out of high school. He gets kicked out of any program that has females in it. To me, that says a lot.
Well, He did get kicked out of the law enforcement program at high school.
Yes, and
it
so
was
he got put into the
HVAC,
HVAC.
like Daddy.
And yes, and you think about that, but it also says that he wasn't allowed to be in a program with females.
Yes, they took
And
him
so
out.
he finishes high school online. He breaks his addiction with heroin. He loses 100 pounds. He starts kickboxing. He does a vegan diet. Everything that he does takes such discipline that went for him to get to WSU in the position that he was at. I give him 100% props. I give him all the credit of all the discipline that he deserves,
Yeah.
because everything he overcame was major.
Let me read this, guys, to you. You're right. And he did overcome a lot, but I just, I don't think he could overcome those overwhelming feelings that he had
Yes.
of
Yes.
what he wanted to do. Like, I'm not saying the guy did it again, but some of these serial killers go dormant for a little while. Like they'll go on a spree, then they'll dormant, then they go back. It's, and was this guy working toward, with these thoughts that he was having, did he get to a point where he couldn't control them and learning everything he knew? Was that why he was fascinated with his studies? Is because that's part of, I don't, that could all be a big nothing burger. He's just a normal guy taking these courses, doing normal work. Y'all are wrong. He didn't do anything. Could be. But if you look at all this, like we're about to read now, to me, it builds a little bit of a pattern you can't ignore.
I mean, when he left WSU, they had a harassment seminar.
Yes.
I mean, that you don't have a harassment seminar after a student leaves for nothing.
Yeah. And there was word that he tended to grade the female students over at the college a little harder than he did the male counterparts. So Brian Kohberger kicked out of high school cop classes after girls complained, former administrator says. What is this? Oh, good Lord. I'd rather just read the article than watch their stupid commercials, right?
All right, Steve and Rich, Brian Kohberger's defense team, as Steve was just saying, is raising issues with the prosecution, not turning over all of the DNA evidence. For more on this, let's bring in now Robert Schulk. He's a defense attorney and a former prosecutor.
Oh, this is
Bob,
like a different thing.
Let's
compared to the
walk
story.
through this. You've got defense trying to compel the judge, his name is John Judge, to have the prosecution turn over all investigative and related evidence of genetic genealogy. Now, the judge has not made a decision here, but I wanted to ask you, is this a bona fide defense request or is it a stall tactic?
No, this is a bona fide legitimate defense request. Under a seminal case of the Supreme Court of Brady versus Maryland, the defense is entitled to information that potentially could exculpate them or could benefit them. The prosecution should err on the side of caution here and elect to turn over this information because this is the probable cause that led to Brian Kohberger being a suspect in this case, them placing him in custody and then taking that confirmatory, what's known as a buccal swab. It's a cotton swab of the mouth that they use to get the more specific STR DNA that is used normally in criminal cases. This genealogy and this genetic genealogy information is definitely discoverable. The defense is doing the right thing. And again, unless the prosecution wants to lose this case on an appeal down the road, it seems like they have a strong case here. I would err on the side of caution. And when I was a homicide prosecutor, always turned this kind of stuff over because this is what causes great cases to be overturned at a higher court.
Yeah, that video doesn't track with the article. I think They're two
No,
different
not at
things.
all. Not at all. And I just noticed that they have a new update at the court's website. It says court will resume shortly. So we'll read this in case they open up the hearing for us in just a second. The arrest of the 28-year-old criminologist Kohberger Idaho student murders came as a shock, but made sense to a former high school administrator who kicked him out of law enforcement vocational program, she said in a new interview. Although program leaders were told that Kohberger's dream in life was to join law enforcement, his struggles became apparent to them early on. It wasn't going to be an ending up in the police academy kind of thing for him, Tanya Camilla Beers said, a former administrator at the Monroe Career and Technical Institute, a vocational high school program, told the Idaho Massacre podcast it was going to be a little bit more of a challenge for him to get there. While she said she couldn't delve into the specifics due to the student privacy laws, she said students of the Protective Services Program, the name of the institute's law enforcement curriculum, were held to a high standard. If a student did anything that would get an adult fired from their profession, they were kicked out of the program. So he did something that would have gotten him in trouble as an adult on a job.
Right. That's kind of a subjective bar, though. Like what exactly would get you fired? What would get you a warning with human resources?
Improper conduct.
Right. But you get a warning from human resources and then you do it again, type of thing, or was it like extremely excessive? Was it an excessive act or behavior?
It was. Ultimately, what had him removed from the program, when I look back on it now, makes sense. The fact that he wanted law enforcement more than anything else in the world, if you look at it from just that perspective alone and not knowing what I know, you'd be like, I'm shocked. In that respect, I am, but I know another little piece, which is the piece that occurred at the school, so that makes sense. We don't know.
A piece of what occurred at the school. I want to know.
We all want to know. She will not elaborate because of the privacy issues. This, I don't know if that will come out in court or not, if that will even be brought up, if it can, is it going to play a part? And the only way it could play a part is building a profile of your guy. You know what I mean? A history of conduct with this guy. Although she said Kohberger took the program extremely seriously, a group of female students reported an issue to their teacher. A complaint was made and the teacher reported it to me and said, this is not something we can have. Beers told the podcast host. An investigation needed to be conducted. Other students were interviewed. Brian was interviewed, and there comes a time when decisions have to be made, whether it's the decision the student wants or not. The school cut Kohberger from the program, from the law enforcement program, and he transferred to the heating, ventilation, and air conditioning track instead.
Oh, no. If you have aspirations of being in law enforcement, the HVAC track is no.
Horrible.
That is way below your standard. That's way below your intelligence level. No.
Exactly. And that's what his father also did. So,
But we need to talk about this just for a second. And so when we talked about the Kohberger case the other night, there was somebody in chat who was like, all of these things about Brian Kohberger's case are just media creation. They're like, we don't know that they're true. This seems to me like pretty good evidence that there was something weird going on with him as a teenager.
Obviously.
That carried over into his adulthood. This is not media created. It's media reported. It's media reported, but nobody at the school is going to make up this shit just to be anti-Brian Kohberger.
That has been a lot of part of the problem with Idaho 4. Everybody's like, oh, you're making up. This means nothing. It means nothing when it does mean stuff, right? And I know everybody wants to, if you listen to one or two streams and you get told, oh, the media this, go find out for your damn selves. I don't take anybody's word for it. I heard so much about this case rumor based about the president of the university, all the money, all the drug angles, all the. But there were no articles to back any of that up. There was nothing. We have legit things on Kohberger that weren't made up, that were just talked about, and this teacher's not going to make up things and just say this for no reason. And
No,
yeah,
she's legit. If she says there was an incident and I can't talk about it, but there was an incident, then there was an incident.
yeah. And so when the school cut him from the program, he was transferred to the HVAC. And that was before he dropped out. I don't think that maybe he necessarily grasped the depth and breadth of the issue at hand. So really, and there he is, still in, his law enforcement stage there at school, a yearbook photo of Kohberger in a high school law enforcement class doing a push-up. And you could tell he's a little heavier there, so he was still, this may have been right after his surgery or before his weight loss surgery, because they say he was a pretty big guy. He was pretty heavy. And then the friends even say, now this is friends, granted, saying this kind of stuff, that after he lost all the weight, his confidence built up, he became a bully. Instead of being bullied, he became the bully. He would bully a couple of the, that's just friends talking. So take that with a grain of salt. How people talk, the story grows taller on down the line. But with Casey, she said he did it to her brother. Casey's father come out and spoke about how his son was like, you know what, I'm not sure I want to hang around my old friend Kohberger anymore. He's turned into this asshole guy, right? So his friends began to notice changes in him. Guys, I need to go get another cup of coffee and use the bathroom real quick. It says now the court is on a break.
Okay, I found the one. Sorry. It says Carmela Beers explained that Kohberger was initially in the Protective Services program at the Institute, where he sought to prepare a career in law enforcement. However, she said that after 2 incidents, he was moved into another program where no female students were allowed.
Wow. See, 2 incidents that had occurred because he didn't learn the lesson the first talking to. And then you go into a program where no females are. Then you go over and you get into DeSales University. Then you get recommended for this program over at WSU, and you get in because you're that damn smart and good at what you're doing. To get into that program at WSU was not easy. He had to be recommended. There was not that many in that program, and especially not many TAs. And then you go over there, and now we have reports coming out that you had problems with the females in that class as well. So it just set up a pattern in my mind that there is a problem with females. And he even said back in some of his earlier writings on Reddit and the Tappa Talks and things like that, how, he was ignored by the females. And so did he just develop a disdain for, females? And going back to a type, a lot of serial killer in the makings, or whatever you want to call them, they do tend to have a type in a way, you know what I mean? I think Bundy even had a type. Say that some of these girls in the high school program that he did whatever to, did they kind of look similar? Were they the pretty blondes? You know what I mean?
Oh, I need to send you that picture. Let's see. Because I don't know if you know my theory, and that's all it is a theory, but I'll put it to you this way. I believe in this so much that I actually contacted Roy Baumeister, okay? And I don't know if you know who that is, but he's a world-renowned psychiatrist, and he talks about the self, and he's like the nowadays Freud,
Yeah.
And he talks about ego depletion and stuff like that. And here's what I think, okay? And this is just take it or leave it. I've done a 3-part series on it. But I think that everything was going great. He had his life together. He still knew who he was and his thought processes and everything, but he had everything under control.
Mm-hmm.
And I think when he got to WSU, his whole world started falling apart quickly.
Yeah.
And he went into what they call ego depletion. Okay. And when that happens, that ego depletion takes away all your inhibitions and your self-control and all that stuff where you control yourself and you stop yourself from doing these things. You're just like, screw it, I'm going to do it anyway, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And so one of my things was like, damn, did he eat a steak? I mean, you know, because
Right. Right.
it's like you go against your own values, you know, all that strength and all that will and everything. It's like, fuck it, excuse my language, you know. But but when you go into ego depletion, but then what happens, and this is the reason that I emailed Bowmeister, was I was like, am I crazy because this is my theory? The man actually emailed me back. And what he wrote to me, I was so, I mean, because I had it like ego depletion escalating to threatened egotism. Okay. And threatened egotism is when you get to that point that you must defend it. You have been insulted and it must be like physically defended.
Oh yeah. I don't think I think he depended on his parents so much, and then once he got out there, he's on his own, and things weren't going the way he was quite used to them going
Right.
over the last while, especially with his experience at DeSales, on the community college there where he got his first psychology degree, and then on to the DeSales program, and then getting into WSU. And the guy had a great career ahead of him. There's no, and what I also find super interesting that I would love to know is why didn't he get that job at Pullman?
Because,
Did they look at the background and say, yeah, well, you had these problems in high school. Would that matter at that point? Because he could change. People grow, people change, people evolve. He's now a 28-year-old man in a criminology PhD program. So what happened that he didn't get that job that he wanted so desperately? And was that also a mechanism to kick off you know what, I'm tired of fighting these urges I already have, I'm going to show them?
Well, see, to me, just the type, I think they got a feel of who he was and said, oh, screw that, we ain't hiring him. I mean,
could have very well, exactly, during the interview process alone, just talking to the guy, you know what I mean? I used to run a business, and I had to hire and fire people, and I had to interview a lot of people, and I would base, a lot about who they were on what they would tell me during the conversation, how they would act. Are they super arrogant? Are they a super know-it-all? Are they willing to be a team player type? There were so many things that went into it. So there's no telling what red flagged him. Because,
right.
it's odd to me that a student of his stature, a TA assistant on top of that, highly recommended for the program, was turned down for the job. That doesn't make any sense to me. A girl got the job instead.
Right.
You don't think that pissed him off if this is all true?
Exactly. Well,
Guys,
Bowmeister emailed me back.
I'll be right back. You guys talk amongst. I'll be right back.
And he says, thanks for the interesting email. Threatened egotism and ego depletion are two of my contributions, but I had never really linked them. I don't think one escalates into the other, but if they coincided, it could be real trouble. Self-control restrains most aggressive impulses. Threatened egotism could create violent impulses, which one might normally restrain. But if depleted, then one might not stop oneself from enacting on that. Where's the rest of it? Ego depletion has mostly been treated as a temporary state. If he's already resisted some violent impulses, then he might give in. But still going to the sorority house and seeking out people to kill seems a bit more premeditated. Note some mental illnesses also weaken self-control, possibly via biochemical process. Low blood sugar, for example, creates a vulnerability to failing at self-control, And I have been told that low blood sugar is a common occurrence with schizophrenia, for example. And I was like, wow, I mean, he didn't come back and say, girl, you're stupid. I mean,
Wait, what are you reading from right there?
okay, I told you that I had emailed the psychiatrist that his contributions to psychology and psychiatry is ego depletion, right? And I mean, like, he's got like 40 books. I mean, stuff like that. And I'm one of those that I will call the devil. All he can do is hang up on me, And so I emailed him and I was like, look, I have this theory about this case that I'm working on, and I just need to know if I'm crazy. And so I sent him the pictures of the girls. I sent him stuff that I had researched and stuff like that, And so when he emailed me back, I was expecting, nah, girl, you're way off base or something like that. No, this man goes as far as like, I don't know anything about this particular case, and it would be unprofessional of me to pronounce judgment on this particular person that I know nothing, but I am willing to talk about general principles and patterns with you. And I'm like, whoa, okay. When can you come on my show? I mean, no, I didn't do
Right,
that. But,
right.
but I mean, this is a psychiatrist that his name is Roy Baumeister. And one of the things that I did with Kohberger was 12 Gauge had challenged us to get to know Kohberger as a person. Okay. Not as a killer, not as a WSU TA or, but as a person. And so I did a deep dive. And so what I did was I took everything that was of his interests and things that I had put together as far as like his belief systems and stuff like that. And I pretty much just let that guide me in my deep dive. And that's how I found out that he was a libertarian. He studied Darwinism, social Darwinism. He was a huge fan of Freud, And so I didn't think I would ever be 56 years old reading 1,000 pages of Freud at night. But
right.
So I really got into the psychological of it, And so that's how I started putting together. Well, then as I was doing my research, I came across Ashley Flugel. And I looked at her and I was like, oh my God, that's Xana. I mean,
looks like Xana.
Yes, exactly.
Xana's my girl. I'm going to tell y'all, I believe I'm very spiritual. Xana does a lot of talking. Xana does a lot of talking. And that Elantra is key. Don't know how, don't know why, but yeah, I wish that Danger was here so we could talk about that for a little bit of a second. But people might think we lost our damn minds. But I'm not like T-Rev getting out the spirit box and all that. But I'm just saying, Xana's my girl. All of these kids are. I tell you, I became very protective because I didn't, when this case first popped off, you didn't know that there was going to be these two surviving roommates, 8-hour gap bullshit. And then you didn't realize that everybody was going to rip these deceased students to pieces. Their lives, their rumors, their this, their that. Like they did something that had, like they put a big sign out front that said, hey, come in here and unalive us, which a lot of kids their age put all their lives out there on the internet. It was a college party town. We all saw how much was going on in that house. But to blame those kids for what somebody deranged did to them and to try to find their OnlyFans this and just trying to blame them was so horrible to me that I kind of like put a little protection bubble around those 4 kids. You know what I mean?
And see, that's like, that's how I am. Like I said, I have made so many lives with me just ranting, and then I go back and delete them, But because I'm like,
I've done that once.
Oh, honey, I mean, poor 12 Gauge. I can call him and say, Right. He's like, okay, I'll be on panel with you. And buddy, he sits right there with me and just lets
So
me
calm,
go.
isn't he? I
And
mean, he's so calm.
but and then I go back and delete them because Lucky's like, Kelly, is that really Nina? Is that really what you want to do? And I'm like, you know, and because see, I have a whole different belief on the two survivors because my thing is, yeah, they lived through it, but did they survive? Is there any survivors from that night? Their life as they knew it ended that night.
Exactly. And I was one of those people in the very beginning when we realized there was that 8-hour gap, surviving roommates. We're like, and then we start hearing things like she heard noises and this and that. It was like hard to understand where this girl was coming from. But if you think about it logically and honestly, a 19-year-old girl who could have been very trashed from her night of partying, a little loopy in the head, foggy in the head. Did she really know something bad was happening? Apparently not. Because I don't think no cleanup occurred in that house. Let's just get that off the table right now, because I'm going to tell you what, Ann Taylor, we've got pictures of Ann Taylor and her entire crew going into that house. Ann Taylor has every single crime scene photo from that house. If you ever watched Forensic Files, if a cleanup occurs in a crime scene, they know it occurred.
Oh, I have a luminol video about that. I've got pictures of the crime scene that's just pristine. And then you see the after when they turn the light on.
Yeah.
And it lights up like a Christmas tree.
Right. I mean, did she know what was all because it was a party house, bushy eyebrow guy walked by, fine, great, thank God he's leaving now, maybe the house will quiet down. I don't know. I do got issues with her casually hearing, don't worry, I'm going to help you, because if that occurred in Xana's bedroom, there's no way in hell Dylan heard that from her room if it was casually spoken. It had to casually been spoken right there in the living room, right where we see all the crime scene investigators doing their job.
Now, see, I think that, and I mean, you may not even want to know what I think.
No, I do want to know. Do you think it could have been Ethan that said that to Xana?
No, I think that, okay, here's what I think. I think that the DoorDash and him being there at the same time has a big deal to do with it, okay? And I think that, and this is just my opinion, okay? I think that Xana bent down to get the DoorDash. He put the knife to her throat, led her to the bedroom, not knowing that Ethan was in the bed, passed out, okay? And his target, I believe, was Xana. I don't know what he was going to do with her, to her, or anything like that. But I think when he realized that Ethan was in the bed, it went into panic mode, and he did what he did to Xana. Ethan's coming out of a stupor, and when you pass out drunk, they say it's like 1 molecule difference between alcohol and anesthesia, And so the way that Ethan's head would be, it would be where that blood would be coming down from the outside. And so if he got him and did whatever, then it would run down that way because that's where his head would be.
Mm-hmm.
And so then you hear somebody say, okay, Steve says he did not have to go upstairs. Well, if he's took care of everything in that room, he doesn't have to go upstairs until somebody says there's someone here. Okay. And he hears that. So he goes upstairs, and that takes place. As he's coming back down the stairs, he hears the whimpering of Xana because she has survived the attack. So when he goes back down there to take care of Xana and she's whimpering, he says, it's okay, I'm going to help you. Now, how sadistic could that be?
That's very damn sadistic.
To give her that false hope.
It's a very sadistic thing that you would expect a sadistic killer to say.
And then he finishes Xana, and that's when he walks out the back door.
Well, you got a good theory there as far as, like, even parking behind the house. Like, the attempt to turn around and park in front of the house. You wouldn't park in front of the house if you were about to go in and try to unalive people. Now, if you're smart, you're going to hide your car. Because everybody's always assumed, they tried to push the narrative that Kaylee was the target, but I honestly believed Maddie was. But your theory's not wrong. It's not off. It's very plausible, especially if he heard noises from upstairs thinking something's going on. Now I got to go up there. But he still could have slipped out real quick, without ever having, like Steve said, without having to go up those stairs. But that would mean Steve knows that Xana was targeted first.
Right. And
floor.
see, Xana's aunt actually put a Facebook post saying that Xana was the target and that she was first.
I remember that.
Yes.
And I remember that. And that's, we don't want any of these people to be targeted. Xana was such a free-loving girl, She had a beautiful soul. You could tell in the videos you see of her, her actions. She's very funny. I think she was very well liked, so it's, I don't know, which one. So he would have he would have had to have known, though, that she was going to open that front door to get a DoorDash. But okay, so according to the PCA, the DoorDash comes in around 4. At 4:06, he's coming back through there too. 4:05, right. Actually. Did he see that DoorDash driver drop off that food and thought, well, there's my way in right there?
Well, see, it's been said that the DoorDash was bought with a gift card.
Well, it's been said, but
that's the reason I said been said.
Here's the thing. I am a former DoorDash driver, and I've tried to explain this a billion times on the internet, and I don't think anybody listens. And I cannot believe I'm the only
understand that feeling.
I know.
When you think nobody listens.
Yeah, I'm not the only DoorDash driver out there that can tell people things. So no matter what, no matter how that food was purchased, no matter who ordered it, DoorDash knows what account ordered that food.
Right.
They know how it was paid for. They know exactly what time it got dropped off. Even if it's like most of mine were, contactless delivery. You place that food down on the front step or their table, whatever they have there for you to do. Some leave specific instructions. Leave it in the garage. Leave it on the table, whatever. You put it there, then you got to confirm drop off. When you confirm it, it takes a photo of that food and it emails it or texts it to the customer, but they can see you approaching the home anyway. They know you're close. Right. But then it sends them the notification your food's out front. So regardless, I know everybody said, well, the DoorDash order was a ruse, right? It was this, it was that. Even if it was, say if it wasn't ordered from Xana's phone or Xana's account, but it was ordered from somebody else, and because I can order for my son and have it sent to his dad's if he's his dad's, right? But they're going to know who ordered that food, what account it came from. And all of that's part of that search warrant for DoorDash. That's not just to see who the driver was. They know who the driver was. He came in and told them.
Yes.
So what they were looking for were the details of that delivery. Who made it? When was it made? Where did it come from? How long did it take to get there? When was it dropped off? Blah, 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 blah.
And I mean, the search warrant for DoorDash is like for what, a whole year?
Yes. Well, Xana's friend on Dateline, when talking about Xana, she said everybody knew Xana was a DoorDash ordering freak. It did not matter what time of day or night. Xana was always hungry. And if Xana got the munchies or Xana got hungry, Xana was ordering DoorDash. Now we know, allegedly, according to Xana's dad, after what went on at the frat house, remember they kept saying in the beginning, anybody with any information on Xana and Ethan's whereabouts, please contact us, all this stuff. It's like, how do y'all not know where those two were? They left that frat house and they walked across the band field, up those side stairs and into that house. Because if they'd went the other way and past 1122, it would have seen them walking. I believe they went up those concrete steps and went on into the house. So like, screw it. We're done with the night. You just got in a fight at the frat. They ordered pizza because Xana's dad said he talked to her right around midnight.
Yep.
And they were at home watching movies, eating pizza.
Eating pizza.
And then at 4 a.m., she ordered herself some more food.
So November the 17th, the Chapins did like their first interview with the, is it King Live, with the girl that actually resembles Kaylee?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. There's pieces of that interview that has been cut out. Okay. And I mean, I have searched, and the reason that I know this for a fact is because, like I said, I didn't start this until February of this year, of last year. And so things that I was finding, my daughter had told me about the case. And so I watched that interview, and Miss Chapin talks about the girls hearing the rummaging of furniture, the girls hearing the yelling. Okay. She talks about Bethany coming out of her room, going to the bottom of the stairs on the first floor, yelling up the stairs to Ethan and whoever they're fighting with, to STFU. Okay.
Yep.
And she goes back to her room. Now, to me, that could be construed as exculpatory evidence, because if you are going to scream up the stairs, STFU, to Ethan and the frat guys that have brought the fight over to the house, then Kohberger's not there. It was the frat guys.
Yeah.
And so every bit of that, and I mean, she even goes on to talk about Hunter keeping Maisie and Hunter from seeing Ethan's body. I mean,
Yes,
every
that's
bit of that is scrubbed.
because there's two Hunters, in case y'all don't know. There was Ethan was a triplet, and one of his brother was Hunter, but his best friend was Hunter, another guy named Hunter. And Hunter, the best friend, is the one that Dylan called that morning to come on over to the house. Something was wrong. And I do wonder, because Christy Gonzalez did an interview with Drunk Turkey, and in her statement, she said that when Dylan got up and came out of the room, at some point we all think she did end up downstairs.
Yes.
The girls come up the stairs and realize, holy shit, there was obviously something in that living room floor, because there's too much crime scene activity happening in that living room, right? I don't know if it was blood step, footprints, what it was. There was something. So if those girls come up those stairs, they see whatever's in that living room right there. You can't avoid it. You have to go towards Xana's room. If they couldn't get that door open, was that door locked? You know what I mean? Did the person lock it and walk out and shut it? Was
Xana up against the door?
One of them up against the door, exactly. So when Hunter got up there to try to get into the room, they didn't even think about the girls upstairs yet. He goes to try to get in, and that's when he screams for someone. Everybody get out of the house, call 911. Now, I don't know how many were in the house at that point. I think the girls were outside, because we know one was hyperventilating and one was passed out.
Okay, and see, now, this is where, okay, they talk about the girls texting, okay? I believe, honestly, the girls were texting, okay? But I think that the girls were like, my gosh, I cannot believe the frat guys are here fighting at this time of night. You know, did you hear that? What's going on? I mean, you know, and I think that they honestly think it is the fight that has continued from that night. Okay.
I agree, because wasn't Bethany was also over at the frat house. So
yes, she saw the fight.
And I do believe the girls were texting, hey, do you hear what's going on? What do you think this is? I wish they'd shut up.
Right.
I'm going to come down there with you. This is not cool, whatever. The PCA says that they used downloads from the roommates' phones to help with their timeline construction.
Okay, so if you'll notice too, it says Dylan said that she originally went to bed in her room. You don't originally do something unless it changes.
Exactly.
So I think that when he left out the back door, we know it wasn't completely dark, but it was dark enough that when she left her room, she ran straight down those stairs, got in the bed with Bethany, and was like, thank God they're gone, lock the door. We don't want them coming back, whatever.
Yeah.
They get up the next morning and Dylan goes upstairs and is like, WTF? Now, there's two different stories, and maybe you know the confirmed one because I don't. Is that one, Ethan was supposed to meet Hunter at the gym and he didn't show up, so Hunter shows up to find out what's wrong.
The brother Hunter or the friend?
The friend Hunter.
The friend, yes, that's what I had heard.
And then the other one is that Dylan called Hunter.
Yeah, Dylan did call Hunter because Hunter was right next door, 1112.
Yes, okay.
And the other Hunter, the best friend, or I'm sorry, his brother was supposed to be at a study group that morning. And
okay, study group.
Yeah. And so the girls at the study group are like, where's Hunter? And then, you know, and we also heard through WSU Mom Kim and Dave and all these people, all these phone calls and Snapchats and stuff were going out. Let me think about it for a second. Okay, if there's a crime happens across the street from my house and we see cops everywhere, we're all going to start speculating what's going on, you know. Or if you take the college town, for instance, and you got all these friends, something horrible has just happened at 1122. We don't know what it is. When those girls came running out of the house, Hunter runs in, call 911. There were already a few kids gathered out there. That's when the rumors or the messages started going out. Right before the police were called, and as they were being called, the messages were being sent out. Something horrible at 112. Christy got a call from her niece saying, hey, I'm hearing something bad has happened. Have you talked to Kaylee? You know, and they didn't know if they were shot. Rumor was they were shot. They were, and that's how things happen in the first few hours. Nobody knows anything. So it doesn't surprise me that those calls and Snapchats were going out. I don't think it was anything nefarious, you know.
Right. Now, see, I think Hunter went in the house. He couldn't get the door open. Okay. Now, you know that ladder that's always been laying on its side?
Yep.
And it's standing up that day. I think, in my opinion, that maybe Hunter climbed that ladder, going to try to go through the window, and he saw enough through the blinds, and he yells, call 911.
Very well could have been that way because we've all speculated on that damn ladder.
And I think
yeah, go ahead, Joe.
So I'm on the far outside of where you guys are at with knowledge in this case, but why couldn't the bad guy have been the one that used that ladder to go in through the back door?
It wasn't the back door. It was this. If you use that ladder, you would have, let me pull the house up. You would have,
right, to get up on the balcony to go in through the kitchen sliding doors, right?
No,
the front of the house.
On the front of the house, there's a ledge.
There's a front of the house. Let me see.
Oh,
okay. Let me see.
That's where the ladder was. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. We've got, I wish I had all my crime scene pictures loaded up to the computer here, but I don't. They're on my phone. I need to do that so I can easily pull them up. Let's see.
Dude, I just need a StreamYard tutor.
Well, I can try, girl. I'm learning as I go. Joe and I both are. Let me pull this picture up and see if we can get it on screen so I can show you.
And I mean, everybody knows that ladder has been laying down since the day of dawn. It has been laying down on its side.
Yeah. Okay. So right here was Xana's bedroom window. Can you see my pointer? Yeah. Okay. So that right side, and this is the ledge here. And the ladder would have been propped up right here beside the house.
It's propped up right at that ledge.
Yeah, it's certain. I'm trying to see if we can see that in any of these pictures. I've got photos of it, but I would have to really, like I said, it would take me a hot minute to get them. Let me pull this out of the way. There's just so many. Okay, here we go. Here we go, Joe. Can you? I know it's a little hard to see. Can you see it?
Yep, I see it. Nope, it's good.
Yeah, there's the ladder right there. And right along the ledge here, there was like some dirt slide marks looking things. And a lot of them were wondering, is that blood? Is it whatever? It doesn't appear to be blood. It's not red. It's very, very dark, like like brown dirt, mud, whatever. Like maybe dust had collected up there, and as somebody moved through. But I can understand where you're saying though, that did he climb the ladder to look into Xana's window? Because just on the opposite side of the back side of the house back here, we have photos with the blood coming down the outside of the home, which is
Okay,
where
so stay there on this picture for a second. If bad guy went around and parked behind in the apartments beside it with a parking lot that's above the house,
Mm-hmm.
did he enter in the back door at ground level or through the balcony level?
ground right here.
Okay.
That's
Okay.
the kitchen.
Okay.
This is the kitchen entry. This is Kaylee's bedroom. Oops.
So he had to go upstairs from the ground level up to her bedroom.
Yeah, hang on. I just accidentally did something. Yeah. So technically, this is the second floor when you enter
Right.
from here.
Right.
So first floor would have been down here where Bethany was at, but it was as you move through the house. So anyway, so go through the kitchen here, and that is your second floor. And then as you move through that kitchen, you're right there at Dylan's bedroom door. And then to the right is the stairs leading up to the girls' bedrooms. And this is Kaylee's room here. And on the other side was Maddie's with the window with the boots and the pink M. And he parked allegedly back here in the parking lot. Like, because at 408, when you see that the light colored sedan come around Linda Lane, you can literally see the lights go out on the car. And then that car is back there for however long. And then they say it speeds away at a high rate of speed at about 420. Let me check up on chat real quick. The court apparently restarted, and now it's still saying this portion is closed. They need to get over their closed hearing selves. Good Lord. All right, let me pull up something real quick we can take a look at while we're, whoops. And there's still so many documents I haven't even had a chance to finish reading, and there's some interesting stuff in those documents about specifics to the case that we didn't know before. Let me pull up my playlist. I almost forgot what today's date was. I definitely think he parked in the parking lot behind the house. There's woods to hide until he went in. Yeah. Oh yeah, there's a lot of, once you dip behind those apartments, it's so dark back there. And even though it was, that time of year, there was still foliage back there, but you could see where he parked. If he parked back there, which I'm pretty sure he did, you could see right through that house, and you could tell when all the lights went off and things of that nature. Okay, so while we're waiting here, I'm going to throw up this little court.
Okay, Salty, I found why I thought that Yik Yak was Kohberger.
Okay.
It says, Detective Lawrence Mowry, having given me proof upon oath this day showing probable cause, establishing grounds for issuing a search warrant and probable cause to believe there is information related to the investigation of the homicide of Madison Mogan, Kaylee Goncalves, I always mess their name up, Xana Kernodle, and Ethan Chapin at 1122 King Road, Moscow, Idaho, on the Yik Yak account of Brian Kohberger with any of the following identifiers, email redacted. And then it says June 1st, present, including unique user ID number of account that is signed by Yik Yak, registration date and time of the account, registration IP, current username and tag numbers, users, paid subscribers, limited billing. So that's the reason I thought it was for Kohberger.
Right. Well, I agree. It probably was. We know there could have been a lot of different ways he could have been watching and doing different things. Even like his DeSalle, was it his DeSalle's email or
yes,
was attached to the Instagram?
Yes.
they found. Because if you guys haven't seen it, when we had Forensic Frenzy on the show, on our Salty Sunday show, she had the interview with Garrett from Garrett Discovery. And if you remember, that stuff was put out on Reddit in the very early beginning of this case. And everybody wanted to discredit it, discount it. The Gonzalez's didn't. But law enforcement didn't use Garrett Discovery. They did it on their own, but media also pays them to do things as well. But in fact, I'll drop her link because she did a whole, like I said, she's got 2 interviews with the guy from Garrett Discovery. And it will explain what all that is really about. Take it all with a grain of salt. I believe, let me pull this up. Let me get her up here. So their work, they claim they were able to make a tie to him following the students. Now, a lot of people got really mad about that and said, well, you can't prove that and all this stuff. But you know what? We speculate, we theorize, and we do talk about what is out there, right? And there's nothing wrong with that, in my opinion. And the Garrett Discovery stuff was out there for so long, it was really cool to hear from him. Here's the link to Forensic Frenzy's channel, and you guys are welcome to go and take a look. You may have to scroll down through some of her videos, but she did have 2 lengthy interviews with him on the stuff he discovered when they were checking into the accounts of Brian Kohberger. And, when law enforcement comes out with a case like this, they go into preservation. They want to preserve all the accounts attached to these individuals. And then they work their way from there. But there's something to some of that Garrett Discovery, I think. And just because there may not have been a connection on his personal phone doesn't mean there wasn't one on a different device. Now,
Right.
Would you use your normal phone to stalk somebody, or would you, Rex Horman was smart enough to get all them burner phones. He was smart
Hey,
enough
I'm gonna tell you,
until DNA come along.
Forensic Frenzy is an investigating fool. I mean,
Well,
I made a post because, I told you that I had hunted everywhere about the Chapin interview. And people were like, Nina, you're crazy, and I'm like, no, I promise y'all, I swear. And so I searched and searched, and all I could find is statements from other people talking about that it had been cut out. And so they were like, well, because if I was to say something on your channel, I believe in having the receipts because I'm representing your panel. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And so I made that statement on a panel, and so I felt like I really needed to back it up. And it just so happened that I was actually just binging on Forensic Frenzy's like earlier videos. And honey, she did 2 videos on the same exact thing.
Yeah.
And so I put a post, and I was like, I love you. I'm not crazy.
She and I have done similar work. We've been talking from the beginning, because when she first came onto the scene, she was convinced that Kopaka was involved, and she did a lot of digging into those court documents, all the search warrants, trying her best to tie that together, and couldn't get there. And then I noticed a shift in her beliefs on Twitter. And then so I flat out asked her about it. But, she did start communicating with the parents. And they told her things. And I don't have I don't really want to have a relationship with the parents because I want to stay open-minded. You know what I mean? I don't have a problem with her having that, because there was a question that I had. There was something I saw a long time ago, and then somebody messaged me and said, hey, Forensic just did a little piece on that one thing you did that nobody talks about. So I went and watched it, and I sent her mine. And I said, notice the date on mine. It was months before hers. Then she gave me a little more information about what could have went down there. And it's something I do want to talk about. And let me pull up this video, and I'm going to show you guys, because I know that everybody has their issues with, like I said, with the Gonzalez family, but That's your own, not mine. And they talk, if you don't know these people, like if you haven't seen a lot of their interviews and the way they talk, you might not, it's hard to follow them sometimes. They can be hard to follow, but not for me because I'm just so darn used to them. Let me get it up here. Like every time I go to actually try to find something I know I've got, it's like, where did it go? Because it's so important that I know I have it saved completely by itself. Oh, was it a short, not a video? Let me see. Oh, good Lord, I just pulled up one that's damn Brad Holder. Scrolled right past it. Dude gives me the creeps. All right, where are you at? Oh, hey, here's one I wanted to share. Hold on a minute. Okay, let's look at this one first since I just ran across it. Okay.
Dropping them off. You've checked your phone records. You know.
Let me try to get it to go back to the beginning if it'll let me. Did they just start the court hearing? What's going on here? Hang on. I'm just going to let it play twice.
So they arrived to Corner Club around 10:20, which is different.
Uh-oh. I better not be having internet issues. I'll be so mad. Got full strength, so I don't know what's going on.
Got in the car around 1:50. It's about a 5-6 minute drive.
Oh my God, are you kidding me? I wonder if my grandson's got something on in there I don't know about. He's home from school today. He's probably playing his damn what you call that Meta Quest thingy he's got. So this is what she's talking about. Every time I go to, when I'm not playing it for you guys, it's working just fine. But when I go to play it for you guys, it's like, I'm not going to do it.
You have pulled video seeing the Uber driver dropping them off. Yes. You've checked your phone records. You know with timestamps what time they got home. Yeah. It's not exactly what police are saying, right?
Right. It's not 1:45. Kaylee and Maddie were picked up from their home at 1122 King around 10:15. It's about a 5-minute drive down. So they arrived to Corner Club around 10:20, which is different than what was released at 10. We know that Kaylee called for an Uber at 1:45. He arrived at 1:49, got in the car around 1:50. It's about a 5-6 minute drive. They arrived home at 1:56.
You have pulled video seeing the Uber driver dropping them off. Yes. You've checked your phone records. You know.
See, they've seen stuff that, and Olivia, she's not anybody to mess with as far as her sleuthing abilities go. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, she really, I was trying to find, I just checked and they're still got this portion of the hearing is closed. Where the hell is my... I think when I'm looking for things, I look too fast and just skip right over my titles. I'm like, no, slow down, girl. Because I know it's on here. It's not just on my phone or on my TikTok, which I don't even do TikTok hardly anymore.
We got people waiting to see this hearing in Idaho.
Mm-hmm.
And judge is like, yeah, you can keep waiting. Keep waiting. Keep waiting.
They need to quit arguing about over what they're going to unseal and let us see. I mean, you're sitting there accusing law enforcement of doing some nefarious stuff. Let us know about it.
I wonder if Judge Hepler called up Fran Gull. He's like, how do I handle this?
Give me some advice, Miss Gull. She's just going to be like, shut it all down. Screw it. What can they do to you? No, I don't think he'll do that. He led me to believe he wants as much as this open as possible. And I do get the concern with the privacy for the people on the IGG, you know. I do get that. But get that out of the way and let's get on with it, you know.
I just sent you a picture and an email.
Okay, I'll grab that and check it. Let me see.
So Brian Kohberger has his two parents, and he has a sister as well, right?
2 older sisters.
2 older sisters.
Uh-huh.
And the rumors about the IGG is that they hit on the sister, one of the sisters.
Well, according to Forensic Frenzy, that's one of her theories. Okay. That's what happened.
And now consider that all 3 adult children majored in psychology.
They did. Mm-hmm. Both sisters and Kohberger himself. What were they trying to figure out about themselves?
Thank you.
Let me see if that video is not there either. I don't want to even talk about it unless I can show the damn video, because it won't do any good unless I can show it, because you're going to be like lost on it. And also, I need to check your email real quick as well while we're waiting.
So what is the hearing supposed to be about today? The one that we're not allowed to see?
Well, what they're doing now is trying to figure out what we can and can't see. And when they open the next part of the hearing, they're discussing the IGG DNA and some of the stuff in the Franks motion. The defense had said yesterday that they were prepared to talk about some of that Franks motion stuff, but then as they began to talk, realized they may not be able to without divulging stuff that they don't need to divulge, according to the judge. You know what I mean? So they have to get in there this morning, apparently, and hash it out over what they're going to talk about on the open portion. And then the judge made the statement that if anything comes up during that hearing, that they could just turn off the cameras and the audio for a few minutes until they figured it out. But he told them to use initials and all kinds of, he gave them ideas, you know, and so did the other lady, the attorney who testified on behalf of opening everything. She had a very good argument and gave good alternatives to use, you know what I mean, to hide the information, like redacting and things of that nature.
Yeah, and the thing with turning the cameras on and off during parts that should be off the record is we've seen cameramen screw that up. Like in Karen Reed, Judge Bev, Auntie Bev, she shut off the cameras for a whole afternoon because they accidentally showed a juror crossing into the jury box. And that's actually, according to Ron Wilkins of the Lafayette Journal and Courier, that's actually why Fran Gull shut down all cameras for all of the Delphi proceedings, which seems excessive to me, but it was because the one hearing that was broadcast on TV, they went off the record and whatever, I think it was Law and Crime was broadcasting that, or Court TV was broadcasting it, whoever was broadcasting that kept recording during the portion of the hearing that was supposed to be off the record. So she's like, oh no, you didn't. And she shut down everything after that. And then when I was in Lori Daybell's hearing, the second hearing, after she was declared able to represent herself the day before, and she filed a motion, they came in and they had a hearing in the new courtroom. And the judge came out before the hearing in his regular clothes. He wasn't in his robes. And he had a talk with the cameraman. And he's like, I don't want you to focus on the defense table because I don't want there to be anything of a sensitive nature that gets broadcast to the public. And the cameraman's like, okay, all right, I can do that. And what does he do? Like the very first time she comes in and she starts pulling documents out of her manila envelope, he focuses right in there on the documents. And I don't think that we saw anything that was privileged or confidential, because I don't think he actually did, quote unquote, focus on it. So maybe he complied with the judge's order. But even to have the camera pointed right there at the defense table when the judge specifically said, I don't want you to focus on that. It's just like, that's all it takes to screw it up for everybody. That's why they weren't live. They didn't broadcast either of the Lori Daybell hearings live. They recorded them and they broadcast them later.
Oh, wow. I'm sorry, Joe. I was commenting to you and I was muted.
Oh, no.
Me too. But with the case with Lori did not want those cameras anywhere near her. She stated that from the very beginning. Chad Daybell didn't see it that way. But what they did do in Idaho when they first started holding these hearings, Court TV was the pool, and they got into trouble because they were zooming in on the damn client. And then the judge warned them not to do that. And then they had another hearing and they did it again. That almost ruined it for everybody. So then the judge decided to put the fixed camera in. I'm telling y'all, I don't think this is going to be a secret closed trial. No way in hell.
Oh, I don't either. I don't think they would ever get by with it.
Nope, they won't. They won't. And this is different than Miss Gull and damn Delphi. Let me pull up my screen here. I wanted to show you. Okay, so this is a little interview that Christy and Steve did. And as I was watching it, I stopped. I was like, wait, what did she just say? And I had to go back and rewatch it. I was watching it with a friend of mine. And I want to get you guys' take. And then I'll tell you what Forensic Frenzy and I talked about with it.
We get no information at all.
We find it out ourselves, and
we don't get that's so. Yeah, we don't get any. They don't. Yeah, we don't get any information. Like, hey, by the way, I mean, they did let us know. By the way, the FBI is going back in the house. They're going to be in the house on Tuesday and Wednesday, or whatever.
Which is good because when that happens, our phones will ring. You know, there's going to be people who reach out and say, "What's your comment?" There has been times where we're not even sure what you're talking about.
But no,
they've done a better job of making sure that we get
as far as
heads up.
Things like, like during, I thought maybe like they would tell, like maybe over the summer, like, hey, we just want to let you know that we've kind of put together a little task force, and this the next 2 weeks we plan on getting out in the Lolo Mountains or whatever, and searching for the murder weapon.
Lolo Mountains.
Lolo Mountains.
So Forensic Frenzy talked about it too. And this is not confirmed. I know people will probably come sideways at me for even saying it. But she said that she asked Christy and Steve, and they said yes. So they confirmed to her there was a search done in the Lolo Mountains. For those of you who do not know, the Lolo Mountains are in Montana. They sit right across the border from Idaho. If you look at the return search warrant from Pennsylvania, there is a letter from Montana. I think it was to Brian's dad from Montana. I have to pull it up to actually tell you the word for word what it said. So
There's
then, go ahead.
Yeah, it's a note from Brian to Montana, or from
Let's-
Montana.
Yes. And people were like, is Montana a girl? Is it the place? Did he get? So then I ran across this. Let's see if I have it in this folder.
Well, the picture that I just sent you actually has a girl on there that's named Amanda Montana.
Really?
Yes.
Okay. Where is that I wanted to show you guys? Okay. Joseph Edward Duncan III, he died in 2021. He was an American convicted serial killer and child molester who was on death row in federal prison following the 2005 kidnappings and murders of members of the Grown family of Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. He was also serving 11 consecutive sentences of life without parole for the 1997 murders of Anthony Martinez of Beaumont, California. Additionally, Duncan confessed to, but had not been charged with, the 96 murder of two girls, Sammy Jo White and Carmen Cabayas, in Seattle, Washington. At the time of the attack, the Grown family. Duncan was on the run from a child molestation charge in Minnesota. During his incarceration, authorities connected Duncan with unsolved murders of Anthony Martinez in California and the two girls in Seattle, which all occurred when Duncan was on parole from 94 to 97. In all, Duncan was convicted in Idaho for kidnapping and murdering the three victims in Coeur d'Alene, for which he was given 6 life sentences. In federal court for kidnapping Shasta and Dylan Grown and murdering Dylan, for which he was given 3 death sentences and 3 life sentences in the state of California for kidnapping of the murdering of Martinez. The whole point being that the Grown family, let's see, was it Shasta and her brother? He took them to the Lolo Mountains. And
wow.
Yeah, and so if you look at the Wawawi Park stuff, allegedly Bundy had ties to there as well.
Right.
One of the theories this person who sent this to me wondered was, did he know about this case, through some of his research or just through his obsession with serial killer type things or whatever, and did he go bury the weapon in the Lolo Mountains? We don't know. It's not confirmed, obviously. And if they did do a search of the Lolo Mountains, where would they know to hone in at? What led them there? And
Wow.
for something they may have found, the Montana letter, or was there something incriminating in there? If this is true, and they did do a search over there, what prompted the search? You know what I mean? Something would have led them to that. They just didn't pull that out their ass. Because I would be like, go to Johnson Bar Campground. It's right there on the way out of town, in the middle of nowhere. I done been all through that campground. Tons of places to hide things, campsites everywhere with little fire pits to burn right along the side of the river. Lots and lots of ways to do things right there. But the Lolo Mountains aren't far from there either. Where would you even begin your search, right? I mean, such vast areas. Even some can, theorize he had on a murder suit, took it all off right at the back door before he slipped out of the house and got into his car, meaning that's how there's no evidence in that car. So if you got on a Dickies suit, we all heard there was a Dickies receipt somewhere. So this is just speculation, people. This is all it is. So if you have on your suit, and there's deep pockets, you don't need to have your sheath tethered to your belt. You can just slip it in that deep dicky pocket. I'm in the South. Men wear them things to work, and mechanics wear them. They're, they got pockets. So if you got one in your pocket, you don't need to have it tethered to your body. And if everything from the mess of the scene gets onto that, and you pull that off right there at that back door, and you shove it into a backpack, nice and neat, and you throw it into the trunk that may or may not have a shower curtain or plastic bags down, is there going to be a lot of evidence in that car?
Right.
I mean, the guy's not stupid. Did he make a mistake by leaving his sheath? Yes, of course, if it's him. It's his DNA on there, I know that. But I don't know. There's just a lot of, people want to come and say, well, prove that he's guilty, or prove he's in, or, prove he's guilty. Well, we can't. We're not at court yet. But we can speculate, and we can say there's probable cause, and there's things here that may look like it,
Well, I mean, prove to me he's innocent.
Exactly. Yeah, Rachel, that campground that I was talking about, the bar's campground is Johnson Bar Campground's what it calls. I got to really, looking, and I was like, where, we know where he went, or allegedly the route he took out, after he left Moscow. It would have took him in that direction. Let me pull up something real quick for you guys. I'll show you where it's at as compared to his route. Because remember, there was like a 15-minute window or something where there was some missing time, which never made no damn sense to me. All right. Let me get this up. I'm still keeping an eye on the court thing, guys. Watch, they'll break for lunch because they'll all get hungry here in a minute, and then they'll come back and do the other one. Okay, so this is Johnson Bar Campground. And if we zoom out, way out, there's the Nez Perce Forest. Here's Moscow. So there's Lolo Mountains. Johnson Bar is in between the two. So it's not a stretch to go over here to the Lolo Mountain area. But if you look, so the route out was this way, coming in back to Lewiston and then back out this way. But you could easily, let's see if I can zoom in on that little road. Where'd it go? So there's Genesee, and we know the phone pinged in Genesee. Now, the next day after the crimes, he went, according to law enforcement, he went back to the scene of the crime for a few minutes that morning. And then that afternoon, they got him down here in Lewiston at the Albertsons and all of that. And then the phone, he goes offline again for 3 more hours. So if you didn't discard of your murder anything the night of, early morning of, on your way home, later that afternoon when you went missing for 3 solid hours, where were you? Were you in Johnson Bar Campground, or were you over at the Lolo Mountains? Do you know what I'm saying? There was time to do that. And if you just go look at the possibilities of where, because a lot of these are open fields, like the wheat fields and stuff like that, it would have been easy to find if you just chunk it out the window. Someone's going to find it eventually, especially the farmers. But at Johnson Bar, there's there's all kind of little roads that go off onto these weird little paths. Here's the river. I wish I could find there's a little path there on the side that will go into the woods. You can drive all the way into the woods. But a lot of the campgrounds, like I said, they have fire rings set up there, and all kinds of ways to dispose if you needed to.
Man, there's no telling where that thing is.
Let me check your email real quick.
Now, keep in mind when you look at that picture that it's a type, because that's what I get from people.
Right.
They look nothing alike. How can you say they look? I didn't say they look identical. I said a type.
Well, Why is it telling me your message looks dangerous? Girl, it says, this message seems dangerous. Similar messages were used to steal people's personal information. And I
And
can click.
that's from my original one, not my discussion one.
Yeah.
See,
and now
because
it's telling me downloading this attachment is disabled.
what?
It's been identified as phishing. Holy shit.
What?
Good Lord.
It's a screenshot. It's a screenshot.
I don't have anything. Let me see. Okay. Let me pull it up. Well, that girl on the right's his sister.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. It did let me pull it up finally.
But does that not look like a top?
Okay, so Ashley is the other. Okay, Xana is in the lower left.
Yep.
Up on the upper right is sister.
Yep.
So these other ones are
That's Amanda Montana.
Oh.
Okay, so you got Amanda Montana, Melissa Kohberger, Xana Kernodle, Ashley Flugel, Nicole Murray. Okay. Now Amanda, now tell me, am I crazy or is that not a type?
Nope, that's a type. Girl.
And it would stem from Melissa.
Yes. I agree. Holy shit. No one's
now,
gonna like our theory.
The three bottom ones are dead.
Yeah.
Now Nicole Murray was found 2.8 miles from his house.
In Pennsylvania?
Yes.
Remember Dana Smithers' case, his parents were called to testify in that grand jury.
And Irma Kaler is still unsolved too.
So which one was found near his home?
The bottom right.
Nicole Murray?
Yes.
Let me make a note of that name because I want to look into that a little bit. But I know they were investigating other, crimes similar in Pennsylvania to know. Of course, they're going to see if there's any ties. And I think that's why because in the Facebook group, people alleged he worked with Dana at some point at the mall, at the pizza place. And Dana also had a similar problem to Kohberger's heroin. And did they know each other? Some people in the group said they did. Some said they didn't, but his parents testified at a secret grand jury that we are all told. No, they never came out and confirmed it was for Dana Smithers' case. But
I thought they did.
Well, I think they may have. I have to look at that because I know that East Idaho News covered that thoroughly because they're like on top of this case. So let's
So I put out a video called Prototype, and in one of my comments, I get, hey, there's another prototype you need to know about. She was in the Brandywine with him, and her name is Emily Coral. And so I research Emily Coral. She looks just like them.
Well, maybe.
Now, Amanda Montana, Ashley Flugel, and Haley Rosenberg, I think's her last name. Now, Haley Rosenberg and two guys, when Kohberger was in effort during his heroin days, they all ran together, and the three of those got killed in a head-on collision.
Oh, wow.
And she was a cheerleader that was actually nice to him, the Haley girl was. And so Ashley Flugel is who he got high with and was infatuated with, but she liked women instead of men.
Right.
So my theory is, okay, no stalking, right? I'll go with that. But Jasmine went to WSU, so what if Xana was visiting Jasmine? They're walking down the sidewalk. Kohberger's already in ego depletion. He looks up, he sees Xana, flashback to Ashley Flugel, puts him into a tailspin, and bam.
Well, Jasmine, looks a lot like Xana too. And they're not identical, of course.
Right,
but they are
exactly.
very, very similar.
But goes with that type.
Yeah. And she was right there at WSU with him.
Right.
So, would she have been an easier target, or did he say, no, I'm not going to do it so close to home? Because everybody's like, why would this guy go to a state? Why would he cross the state line where there's a death penalty? You know what I mean?
Oh, I got a
So,
video on that too. It's how far is 10 miles a
I
lot.
know. Yeah, exactly. Let's watch this real quick, guys. This is about, this should be about the parents testifying at that grand jury hearing. Unmute.
They're the little tiny feet. I'm like, I just want to eat them, and now I'm like, why are they?
What the hell, lady?
And she's growing.
Don't want to eat
I
your
feel
baby's
this,
feet.
and you know,
Is that what
it's
she's
so funny
talking
when you're on
about?
the other end of it, like her, and you're the tired parent at the Costco. And
No, lady, I don't do the Costco. Okay, let's just read it instead, because somebody's gonna get on my nerves. The parents of Brian Kohberger had been subpoenaed to testify before a Monroe County, Pennsylvania investigative grand jury, according to a source familiar with the situation. Kohberger's father is expected to testify before the impaneled grand jury in a sealed proceeding in Pennsylvania on Thursday, according to the source. His mother previously testified before the secretive panel, the source said. The parents of the man indicted for the killings of the University of Idaho students were subpoenaed in the Pennsylvania jurisdiction where they live, and music coming from. Is that,
We ready?
I need to get me a new phone.
the hell?
You need to trade in that old busted up phone. You
Did
can
that
get your
thing-
brand new iPhone 16 Pro from T-Mobile.
Y'all hear that?
At T-Mobile, it's better over here. Families save 20%
Oh my
every
God.
month. What a deal.
To all you new and existing customers, trade in your busted old phone, and T-Mobile will give you a brand new iPhone 16 Pro with Apple Intelligence on us. Plus, families can switch and save 20%.
Guys, do you hear that ad coming through? Did
Yes.
you hear that?
Yes.
I pay for YouTube Premium. What the hell is going on?
I think it was on that page. I think it
I
was
think it
the.
was too.
Yeah.
So, look, get out of here with your bullshit. Yeah, so those parents were called to testify. Now, we don't know the findings. We don't know, what came of that. And if anything did come of it, say like did they bring the parents in to give a timeline on like an alibi for Kohberger, where was he at during this time and all these things, or did there something come of it? Would they even announce that before this case is done? Do you know what I mean? They may keep that under wraps until this particular case is done and over with. Then again, he could have nothing to do with Dana's disappearance, or anybody else's for that matter. I know people were looking at the similarities between the case over in Oregon, but I didn't see anything that,
Oh, that one got solved.
Jamie and
Yeah, Jamelin.
it was the husband and wife.
Yeah, Jamelin and Travis. It got solved in November.
Who did it? They finally found out who did it?
Yeah, they knew all along. See, I talked to Jamelin pretty regular.
Okay.
And so one of the statements, and that's probably the first time that I've ever talked to somebody that was like you. I've always wanted to just stay away from the families,
Yeah, sometimes you can't help it if it happens.
Yeah, but she made a comment on it was actually on one of Unfiltered Lucky's videos and everything, reaching out, but she had sent me a message telling me that she was 100% positive that Kohberger was not involved, and that she feels like law enforcement knew who it was. And come to find out, it was a guy that had got arrested, and he had all kind of drug problems, mental problems, and all this, and they had let him out of jail, and he was gone against his probation and everything, and they found him like a week later, and their DNA was all over his clothes and everything.
Damn, I'm glad they got the guy, because he stabbed her husband. Her husband died and she survived, in case you guys are familiar with that story.
She was stabbed 29 times.
Isn't that crazy?
No, he was stabbed 29 times. She was stabbed 21 times.
Yeah. And people speculated, was that well, not everybody speculated if it was Kohberger, but I know a lot of people did.
Well, because, there's them and then the Sandra Ladd.
Yeah.
But, the thing about it is I've got like a list all the way back to Delphi, talking about, with the murders that have happened on the 13th, And there's like two in Chicago. There's a couple in Chicago at the outskirts of Chicago that they got killed in their sleep on the 13th with a knife. There's a bunch of them.
There is. And when this case first started, I remember everybody getting into the numerology part of it, right? With the dates, the times of things happening. And was there significance to that? Who knows? Is it
Now,
all?
see, that's where I actually, and I hate to say it because I have so much respect for Purple Heart recipients.
Yeah.
But if you go through the history of Kopaka and where he's lived, he has lived within 100 miles of each one of them.
Yeah.
But that's probably coincidence.
Well, he lived in the area. He was from that.
Yeah. Well,
area.
I'm talking the Chicago ones, the Delphi one. He lived in Indiana during the Delphi time.
Yeah. But and when you look at some of the body cam, like the girl he was dating, he got so paranoid, right?
Right.
Back up. And this was not the body cam footage of the shootout. This was from when he called the police to the hotel he was staying at one time. Have you seen that one?
Yes, that's where everybody wants to talk. He's in meth-induced psychosis. To me, no, he's in total PTSD.
He's in total PTSD. He is paranoid, all the things. And that's classic PTSD.
Yeah.
And I haven't seen, and I'm going to tell you, if anybody could have got there with Kopaka, it was going to be Forensic Frenzy, because she 1,000,000% thought he was involved. And she wasn't the only one. And she tried her best. And I know that another channel who's not around anymore because he just couldn't keep his mouth at bay, unfortunately, because he had a lot of good stuff, but he tried so hard to try to tie Kohberger with Enon Harsh, and he about got there. They both like to hike, were they hiking buddies and things of this nature, but there's just a lot of different theories that were floating around out there for such a long time.
But see, I did find that you could make, this is the thing about it, you could make any piece of the puzzle fit if you wanted it to.
If you wanted it to. If you look at, well, I'm not going to say his name, but there's a particular channel out there who goes hard, and I've watched it, and I'm like, okay, dude, you got my curiosity piqued, and you're right, this person's connected to that person and that person, but that don't make all this.
Well, you throw enough spaghetti noodles against the wall, some of them are going to stick.
Yeah, I don't know if you know who I'm talking about or not.
That's the one that I have the ranting video.
The guy who wears the glasses, and
yes, oh my gosh, I have made that. That is my rant. That is my rant. I am his nemesis. But I've never spoke a word to Kara, but being a recovering addict that has buried their child, I have this, I don't know if it's a protectiveness or, it's like, has she not been through enough, And the thing about it is, no disrespect to Kara, but in the live that I'm ranting about, I'm like, y'all don't understand. Drug dealers know their clientele. They know who they can trust with enough information to take them down. Kara is not one of those people they would trust.
No, you're right. And I know enough about that to know I'm pretty damn street smart. I did some. I was never no shade or anything, but I've never done meth or anything. But I used to party my ass off on the streets, and I knew a lot of.
They know their clientele,
dealers and stuff like that, And yes, exactly. And you learn who you can and cannot trust.
And you learn who you can step on the product. You learn who you can take some of the product and skim off of. You learn all that,
You sure do.
And then on the other side of it, she's not an informant material because she doesn't even show up for court.
Right. She wouldn't be in trouble if she was a good informant, right?
Right.
And she was done wrong. I mean, what I mean by done wrong is people throwing shade directly at all this was done because Kara was an addict or because Maddie's mom was an addict, and it's all payback for their activities. Kara did an interview. I don't know if you have seen it or not. Have you seen it on YouTube? She did it. There was I don't even know if she's still around. Crime Sleuthin was her name.
Yes.
But she had Jules of all trades on
Yes,
panel with her when they did,
yes.
and I watched all that and I thought, man, this is not toward Jules, and Jules knows how I feel. This is towards Crime Sleuthin. She exploited Kara.
100.
She did. There was no, and when Kara got up, they're talking about, well, I've seen the drip drop videos and I've seen this. And I was like, oh my God, girl, get off the internet.
Well,
Especially the clown. Get off the clown at least.
Well, the thing about it is everybody wants to talk about, and that again, that live was all about the rider program that Idaho has, and with the rider program, 3 months is 3 years, 6 months is 6 years. She got 9 months. So, we're talking 9 to 12 years,
Yes.
and the rider program in Idaho is last chance. You screw that up, you're gone,
Right. Okay.
And for each person that graduates a 3-month program, each person that graduates saves the state of Idaho $73,000. So there's like 1,800 that go through there. And now we're not talking the ones like Kara that did a 9-month program. We're talking just the 3-month.
Yeah.
And so, at a 6 months, it would be what, like 100 and something thousand, So of course they're going to put them through the rider program because it saves them money.
Yeah.
And
I wonder, go ahead.
So when she got out in November, that was the big thing was, how is she already out? No, her rider program was for 9 months. She went in February. She got out in November. She went through her therapy. I mean, the 9-month program is so extensive. And, she went through the rehab, the therapy, the grief therapy. I wish I had grief therapy. It's been 5 years and I still deal with guilt and regret,
Honey, it's been 20 and that's something you're just starting to get to the point of that 5-year. It's a different journey for everybody, but there's kind of some basic timelines, I call it, time frames. And, I remember sitting on my couch one day thinking to myself, where am I going to be in 10 years? How am I going to feel? I had other kids to raise. What am I? And I remember when 10 years passed, I remember me sitting on that couch thinking, where am I going to be in 10 years? And I was in a much better place than I thought I was going to be. Right.
Well, see, what happened with me was I found TikTok and I started telling David's story on TikTok.
Now, there you go.
And so every Sunday I did a live that was called Those Left Behind, and it was from the loss of addiction. And that is how, because to me, I'm giving David's death purpose now.
Exactly. And it helps to come out, and not everybody, I get it, but for most people, it will help you when you do talk about it,
Oh yeah. Now I can talk about David. As far as telling his story. And yes, it hurts and I still cry. But I can get through it now.
Exactly. I think people wonder about with me sometimes. They don't realize maybe it's been as long as it has, and I can talk about it in a way without getting emotional and, just crazy upset about it, because you learn to live with it, right? And you learn to accept what has happened. And if you can help others in their journey of grief, then I think that's a lot to put out there into the universe to help. I did take grief counseling very early on, but I didn't take it for too terribly long. I have a good way of processing a lot of things. My therapist told me I should have been a therapist because I'm good at processing stuff. And not everything, and it may take a while. It takes longer. It took a long time to process what happened with my daughter. It really did. There was just so much. But I think as time moves on, there's never closure, as people call it. You just learn to live with your new normal. And if you
Right.
help people, and talking about it does help. And even with people in my family, I ran into that problem. Like, they didn't think we should talk about it, or
Oh,
her.
yeah,
And
definitely.
this morning I got a text out of nowhere from my brother, who sent me a picture of my daughter when she was a little girl. And he's like, my favorite picture, because she's pointing right at him on her little tricycle. And I wrote, I love you so much. Thank you for this. Because it let me know that they still think about her like I do. You know what I mean?
Right,
That she's
right.
not just gone and forgotten forever. But it took everybody a long time to get there, to be able to talk about things. I think that a lot of them thought they would upset me by talking about it, but it won't. It helps, you know. So I
Yes, it
commend
does.
you for coming out and sharing your story with others, because you don't ever know who you're touching, right? And who you're helping. You
And
just never
it's
know.
so funny because I left TikTok in December of 23 because it just got to where it was just drama and everything,
Oh,
and
yeah.
plus with telling David's story, my algorithm was the Grim Reaper. I mean,
Yeah.
we lose somebody to an overdose every 11 minutes.
Yeah.
So my algorithm, I mean, I don't want to say I was on burnout, but I
Right.
wasn't giving David's purpose the dedication that I
It's
should.
full light. Right.
And so that's how I found true crime. Was I was sitting there with, those idle hands as the devil's playground.
Exactly.
And I started looking into the Kohberger case because my daughter had told me about it. And I thought, well, I'll just, see what's going on with it. And that's how I found true crime. And did you know that I have actually spoke more in depth about the addiction in true crime than I was on the platform that was addiction and recovery? Because it's like people in chat, talking about, you'll see them come across, well, I lost my son, or and I'll reach out to them, And so I realized that it doesn't have to be addiction recovery platform.
Exactly.
That addiction touches everybody everywhere.
It does. I have family members who have struggled, and it does. And I think it does help people to talk about it. And you know what? Even like with the Soto case, when people were like, "Oh, Jennifer had to know this and that," maybe her story will help people see red flags they may have missed before. You know what I mean?
Right.
About the person they were with, or whatever, however you want to look at it. But I think there's a lot of good that can come out, and that's why I get upset. I mean, I don't get like pissed, but I get upset when I see people who get mad just because Steve Gonzalez came out and made a statement. It's like, who the hell are you to tell this man when he can and cannot talk? And like I said, if you don't like what he's got to say, don't listen. But you're going to go make a video about it in 5 minutes and talk all about what he said,
And if anybody's got a right to talk about it, it's him.
Exactly. What gives you the right to talk about the things you're talking about his daughter, that you have
Right.
no basis to back up?
And see, the only contact I do have contact with Kara's probation officer.
Yeah.
And the only reason is because I went through her, because when Kara gets to where she can have outside contact, I went through her probation officer reaching out saying, I want to help, because I understand losing a child. I understand the addiction, because she's going to be pretty fragile.
Yeah. I put out a TikTok once, because when I first did TikTok, it was before my YouTube channel. I did it for one reason, to put out Idaho 4 documents, because I got so sick of hearing YouTubers scream, and I'm talking scream, when they read a document, this doesn't make any sense, make it make sense. Well, go do some research, buddy. Learn the words. Learn the definitions of the words. You might understand the document a little better. You can tell this was the first case you've deep dove any kind of document. So I decided, you know what, I'll just go put these out on TikTok. People with a brain can read them and figure out for themselves. And they won't have to listen to somebody else say, this makes no sense. Because if you listen to that long enough, you're going to be the one going around saying, well, I know all that makes no sense. Well, here, read it for yourself and you tell me. So then my TikTok kind of evolved where I was just doing news clips kind of thing, right? And I did one once. There was a tweet by BTK's daughter, Carrie, and it was about Kohberger's family. It's about family members of suspected killers, right? So I made a TikTok about it, and Brian Kohberger's sister Melissa liked that, and she started following me. And I've never spoken to her.
Right.
Mason, the dog's trying to get my grandson. I was about to go check on my grandson. He came in here to hang out, and I think the dog is now trying to get in here with us. But I can't let her in because the cat's in here. Real quick, guys, before I just checked, and they're still not holding our hearing.
And it's lunchtime in the Mountain Time Zone right now.
Nothing from inside. Oh, that's somebody else's thing I was looking at. Oops, sorry. We may take a break and come back because I do got to go do something in the kitchen. I do got to do a couple things, but I could just put up something to watch on a video real quick while I go do my little bit of stuff. Let me check their actual website one more time, because Joe, you're checking it with me too, right?
Yes, that's correct. I am.
Okay. If you guys want to stick around a little bit longer and see what happens, I'm fine with that. I'll just put up a court TV video that was out 2 days ago, and we can watch that, or we can say goodbye for a few minutes and meet back up in about a half hour. It's up to you guys. What, Joe, do you have something you need to do attend to? Nina, are you good?
Yeah, I need to hop off for about 30 minutes.
Okay, well, why don't we do that, guys? I'll shut down the stream for now, and we'll be back up in about 30 minutes, if that's cool with you guys. And
that's cool with me.
If the hearing happens to start before we get back on, we'll just start it from the beginning. I can rewind it at East Idaho News or whoever, and we can watch it from there, and I'll join you guys in chat during the stream. So
well, thank you so much for having me up.
You're welcome. Are you on Discord or Twitter?
Yes.
So I could DM you other than email? Okay.
Oh yeah, I have Discord.
Okay, I'll have to send you a friend request because that's where I share my links to come up on panel, but I don't mind dropping it in the chat for you either. All right, guys, let's do that. It's 1:11. Ooh, it's 1:11, everybody. Meet me back here in about 30 minutes. I'll set up the live so you guys can see it and get the notification, and we'll come back in a little bit. How's that sound?
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome, and thanks for coming up. All right, thanks, Joe. And everybody in chat, thanks for coming in and hanging out and listening to everything we've been talking about. We appreciate it, and I hope you get to come back and meet us back up in here in 30 minutes. Yes, thank you, Nina. We'll get her back up in a little bit, and thank you, Forrest. Anyway, guys, we'll see you back here in about 30 minutes, okay? Thanks. Okay.